So, good guy. I think he'll be a good addition.
Oh, yeah.
And change the name of C.
I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Harbor Commission together. Can I get a roll call?
Yes. Commissioner Light.
Present.
Commissioner Kazan.
Present.
Commissioner Callahan.
Present.
Commissioner Carlson.
Present.
And Chair Bauer.
Present.
For the record, Commissioner Walters and Commissioner Kilroy are out, but we do have a quorum and we can conduct business.
Perfect. I'll ask Commissioner Carlson to lead us in a salute to the flag.
Thanks. Please stand, face the flag, and repeat with me. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. All right, the approval of the order of agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All right, that passes. Blue folder items. I don't believe there's any blue
We
folder
don't have any blue
items.
folder items. We do have a PowerPoint presentation from Senior Planner Antonio Gardia, but we'll do a blue folder tomorrow after the fact. So you'll do a receive and file, and then we'll disseminate that PowerPoint presentation to you tomorrow.
Okay, when should we do the receive and file now?
No, just we'll do it when the time comes,
Okay.
when the item's up.
All right, let's go to the consent calendar. Anything to exclude or pull? Otherwise,
So I have two minor comments on the minutes, just name corrections.
Oh, okay.
It's Lee Collier.
Caller, not year,
How do you spell it?
C-O-L-L-E-R.
E-R. And Julie Cole is spelled
C-O-L-L.
C-O-L-L.
COLL. So COLLER?
No, that's Lee's.
Lee Collier.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I'm correcting both. So Lee Collar and Julie Cole, COLL.
And those are those are pen and ink changes.
Okay,
No substantive changes.
we can make that happen.
Yeah, I see that.
okay, motion to approve the consent calendar.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all right, moving on. Excluded consent calendar items, which there are none. Public participation on non-agenda items. Yes, we have something. How fantastic. Oh. I remember F3 on traffic on Pacific from Mike Hamilton.
Hard to figure out which one that could be, right? Who that could be.
No, I've got it. Yes, please approach the podium.
I think it has to do with,
Just introduce yourself and then go ahead and make your comment.
to do with an
Yeah,
agenda.
you got 3 minutes.
Okay, thank
Oh,
Is
no.
what he was saying.
Yeah.
Can you raise the
For the
dais?
vote,
I don't
over.
think we'll be able to hear.
Hopefully you'll be able to
Switch
pick
by
it
your
up.
right
Is
hand.
this in-
It'll make it more comfortable for you.
Oh.
Yeah, well, I could get on my knees, so.
Right, but you know what,
Let's see.
I don't think this is the time for this one though, because this is for non-agendized item, but this is for an agenda item.
This is agenda item.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
It is.
Oh, okay, yeah, we'll wait for it.
Yeah, we should wait for it.
F3, so.
And thank you.
Probably do this anyway.
Yeah, you might as well.
It counts against his 3 minutes, though.
You have somebody.
Oh, we have somebody for a non-agenda item. Do we have a public? Please approach the lectern.
Just introduce yourself and then state whatever you want.
Okay, Mike Martin, District 1, a voter. So this feels a little bit like Groundhog Day here, because this issue has been around for a while and it's unresolved. So when the Portofino was developed, there was an agreement with the Coastal Commission to put in the Portofino lease clause that says lessee shall reserve 2 slips within the marina for exclusive use by a nonprofit equal opportunity sailing club deemed acceptable by the executive director of the Coastal Commission in consultation with the city of Redondo Beach that promotes recreational sailing. So Portofino has been in non-compliance with that lease provision, and the lease provision has not been enforced by Waterfront and Economic Development ever. And Community Services has been squatting on those slips all this time in what is an apparent conflict of interest, so to their benefit, but in defiance of the Coastal Commission agreement. So Yeah, so I mean, Redondo is not a nonprofit. Coastal Commission was never consulted on this. I did a public records request. And public recreational sailing is in no way promoted by the current use of those slips, which is a non-use. There are two little boats sitting there unmaintained. This is the fourth sailing season in a row where those boats have been left rotting in those slips. Previously, Redondo Beach Sailing Club maintained the boats under a handshake agreement that says if you maintain them, you can sail them. So we did them. We brought those boats all the way up to snuff. We took the old ablative bottom paint and went right down to the fiberglass and did hard bottom paint, 2 coats, all right, with our own labor and our own money, which, by the way, you don't ever want to take that job to a boat yard and have to pay for it because that's worth more than the boats are. But, you know, here we are. And the situation, it's been 3.5 years. This is the 4th sailing season, like I say, where they just sit there and rot. So ignoring all the sort of legal and ethical issues here, I just want to appeal to your common sense. Who the hell benefits by leaving those 2 valuable assets there? The boats could easily be brought up to snuff, the slips could be used, people could be sailing, and we could be in compliance with the Coastal Commission agreement. And the Coastal Commission, you don't want a track record of defying their agreements, even on the small stuff. Because they say the true measure of character is what you do when you think nobody's looking. Well, here you are. I guess the city staff thinks nobody's looking, but no, there's some of us are looking. It's not a good look. And bottom line is absolutely nobody is benefiting from this. The quality of life of Redondo Beach residents is not enhanced by this little piece of bureaucratic inertia. And I could go on and on, but my time is up.
Oh, thank you so much for that comment. Mike, do you, I mean, Greg, I'm sorry, are you familiar with this issue?
I am familiar with it. It's a topic that's come up periodically from time to time. It's something that Cameron Harding, our community services director, has been on top of. It's shown up at city council hearings. Obviously, we can't take action on this tonight, but what I can do is get in touch with Mr. Martin, let him know where we're at in the process. But I can solidify and back him up and say that, yes, there are slips out in Portofino which are supposed to be reserved for nonprofit sailing use. But beyond that, you know, we'd have to communicate with the community services department to see where they're at and filling that responsibility and getting that nonprofit attracting a nonprofit to do so on that slip. Essentially, the slip's available, but there's no nonprofit to perform the function.
Oh. Okay.
Mr. Martin wants to
So
do
we
it.
can't discuss it tonight because it's not agendized.
Correct. But you can direct me to work with him and
Can we bring it back for another meeting
if.
so we can understand where it's at?
Yeah, I think we should do that.
I'd like
This
to
seems
see
like
it
a
come back.
fairly something important, especially if it's languished for 4 years, to me.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Sure.
You said there's 2 boats that are just rotting. Those are the 2 sailboats that you talked about fixing 4 years ago?
Yes.
Okay.
And I couldn't figure out how to insert an e-comment for a public comment on non-agenda items, but I do have what I said is on paper here if you want it, and I can give it to
Oh,
you.
motion to receive
You
and
have
file?
one for each of us?
I think so.
Motion to
Second.
Okay.
4,
Motion to receive.
5, 6.
That'll do.
Yeah, that would be great. And Mr. Martin just indicated apparently that he is a nonprofit that could have a boat in there. But I'm still a little confused. You fixed the 2 boats that were in there, and those were the community services boats that you repaired?
Those are the 2 boats that the city kind of sort of claims ownership of. The actual ownership of the various city boats is a little bit of a murky subject that I don't know if we want to get into here. Some of them were purchased by Division of Boating and Waterways. So even though the city has possession of them, they're highly restricted in what they can do with them, to the point where you would say, and the city has said, that the state owns these boats. So, but
I see.
that's a murky subject.
I think it's a good idea if we can agendize it at some point and bring it back, since it's so old. I mean, we'd like to get this resolved, right? I
Need
mean,
us to vote on that?
Yeah, I mean, as long as,
yeah, let's have a roll call vote.
okay.
Let's
Commissioner,
get a motion.
Oh,
and a
yeah, sure.
motion.
Let's have a motion.
I move that we bring this subject back at a future meeting soon.
soon's good. I'll have to work with other staff members and other departments, so we'll figure it out.
Second.
Perfect.
All right, Commissioner Light,
Aye.
Commissioner Kazan,
Aye.
Commissioner Callahan,
Aye.
Commissioner Carlson, and Chair Bauer.
Aye.
We will bring it back in the future soon.
And thank you, Mr. Martin, for bringing this to our attention. We
Thank you
appreciate
very
that.
much.
Thank you for paying attention to it. I have piles of documentary evidence, so.
Yes, we'll keep that and we'll have an opportunity to bring it forward. All right, now we go, for any e-comments or emails received from the public for none.
We do not have any e-comments or other forms of comments.
Beautiful. All right, and now we get to the most wonderful thing, the ex parte communication, which I always ask for, even though we're not having public hearing. But tonight we are having a public hearing, so has there been any ex parte communication? And I see a lot of handshaking. No, yes, Jim Light.
I had conversations with Alan Sanford and with Greg Kapovich prior to this meeting on this topic.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, now we're at section J, a public hearing, consideration of an exemption declaration and amendments to conditional use permits to allow reconfiguration of the outdoor dining areas, minor additions to both restaurant buildings, construction of a wall/gate between the two buildings, and expansion of the outdoor seating area for the restaurant located within a coastal commercial CC-3 zone at 239 and 245 North Harbor Drive.
Thanks. I'll introduce Antonio Gardia with our planning division of our community development department. He's going to walk us through this application.
Yes, thank you, Director Kapovich. The item again tonight is actually the Harbor Commission's second consideration of amendments to these conditional use permits for these two restaurant buildings. The CUP for 239 North Harbor Drive was originally granted in 1986 and then amended in 96, 10 years later. And at the time, a variance was granted to allow perimeter walls at a maximum height of 9 feet. That might be key as we go through the presentation, you'll see. The CUP for the Ruby site at 245 North Harbor Drive was granted in 1991 and then amended shortly thereafter in 1995. And both of these, as you remember, were brought to the commission in December of last year when the applicant applied to have these kind of work in tandem with some renovations and cleaning up of the conditions for the CUPs that govern both of the sites. And again, this amendment deals with the reconfiguration of the outdoor dining areas. There's addition to both buildings, and there's a wall that's being constructed between the two buildings to kind of bring them together. And then there's the expansion of the outdoor dining areas with some new decks. The, let's see. So this is the present condition of the site. It's, again, these two buildings within this leasehold area along Harbor Drive. The applicant is seeking to renovate these buildings and make them more cohesive and aesthetically compatible. Generally, the review of a CUP is to make sure that the business operations don't adversely impact neighboring businesses and residents. And that's the key item here that you would be considering. On the bottom there, there's a clipping of the two buildings and how that would kind of generally look. Doesn't look as nice as the plans that they provided, but it's a little pixelated there, but it gives you an idea of how that would look along that side. There we go. These are some photos of the site. Again, these are recent photos. These are areas where there's going to be some changes to the entryways, to the landscaping. Along the front, there's going to be some new entries that'll push the building outward and along the lease lines. Let's try again. Here we go. These, this slide shows the the lease lines in the application, there's a slight discrepancy in both. We want to make sure that the lease lines match up with what is actually out there. There is a storm drain facility that runs parallel to Seaside Lagoon, and if you can follow my cursor, it's in this area here. It shows there's a manhole out here, and there's an outfall further out over here. Again, the 4 criteria for evaluating these requests is conformity to the coastal land use plan. And in this instance, the restaurant uses are considered a visitor serving amenity. There's compliance with standards. And what that says in the criteria is that the project is adequate in setbacks, open areas, walls, fences, parking, and landscaping. And it's a little bit open to interpretation because they're in the development standards. It says it's all by the design review that those standards are established. So it's they're kind of not set other than the open areas, which has to be at least 10% of the leasehold area. During the hours of operation, it's presumed that the gated area would be open and the public would have access to the play deck and the area immediately to the south, which is approximately 1,800 square feet in size. There are decks that are being placed around the existing trees, and the parking lot with approximately 164 parking spaces accommodates the need for 156 parking spaces. Now, this is one of the things that we took a closer look at when, since the previous amendment. What we found is that when we looked at the original entitlements, there was a much more lenient parking standard that was applied to the former On the Rocks or Chillers establishment. And so it'd be, we want to use that same ratio in the application of these changes here. And so it seems it would be unreasonable to impose a much harsher standard to these changes, especially when they're having no net increase in seating. And again, the criteria also talks about having adequate street access. There's access from Harbor Drive and Portofino Way. After speaking with the neighbor, and he's here tonight, he'll probably comment to this as well. We think that it's a good idea if we impose a condition that restricts delivery traffic to Burrell Street, and so that people aren't going on to Pacific and making illegal turns and things like that. So that's something that may have been an issue in the past with not necessarily these operators and not necessarily this business, but if we can encourage people to stay on Harbor, stay on Burrell Street, I think that would be worthwhile to do. Again, there's consideration.
I'm confused on that, Anthony. Is that for just exiting or entry?
Both.
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 So you can't limit it just for one business.
Well, we can always impose a condition that says that for deliveries, we want to encourage or require that deliveries be on Harbor
Okay,
and
so it's just
Burrell
for
Street.
deliveries, it's not for business?
Right.
I misunderstood.
I didn't
Yeah, just for
understand that.
deliveries, just for deliveries,
didn't
yeah,
either.
just for the deliveries.
Yeah.
Okay, and the
Not
other thing I didn't
necessarily-
understand, Antonio, and I apologize,
Yeah.
but you said there's a gate that's open during operation hours? Where is that on here?
Say that again? Oh, yeah, so I'll get to that in just a minute.
Okay, thanks.
Again, there's sometimes the consideration that we look at, in particular with restaurants, is spillover of noise. And we want to reiterate that the applicant has committed to having control over noise. And we expect that he would hold up his end of that. There's also, one of the criteria is that we're imposing conditions of approval to govern the use. And again, we've added a condition, we're considering, staff is recommending, that we add a condition regarding delivery traffic. We're also making sure we have a condition imposed that the lease lines are adequately represented as far as like what the city council approved. And we're also recommending an additional condition be brought back that restricts alcoholic beverage service in the walk-up area because that'll be abutting Seaside Lagoon.
Is that in the package now?
You know, we took that out of the conditions and, but I'll have the language at the end
Okay.
that calls that
If
out.
you guys agree, we'll add it in there.
Yeah, if you agree with that. So again, this is the overall proposed floor plan. It kind of shows where things are. And then this is more of a close-up. This is the 239 Harbor, and this is the areas where there's going to be some changes. We have this deck on the south side, which will be positioned close to the entry, the new entryway. And this is over these palm trees that are on the side. So it's kind of expanding that area outward and towards the east. This kind of outdoor dining area, it's expanding it outward and connecting it to the entryway. There is an outdoor bar area that's being added here. And then there is a kitchen addition being added here. Then along the east side here is where that new wall with the gate and the fences along this area. This is what the question you were asking about, Commissioner Light. And so this is if you see here, this is the area where there's going to be the new entryway, the expanded outdoor area over where the palm trees are. And then this is along the backside. It's showing some of the new fencing and walls, and then the area where they'll have the gate.
When
And
you say the backside, that's looking at it from the parking lot.
that's looking from the, yes,
Facing
looking at
east.
it from the parking lot.
Yeah.
It's kind of I think of it as being the back of house stuff, because the kitchen is on that side, and right now there's storage and other things.
So the
that are
entrance is
occurring back
moving
there.
to the right,
It's going to be right here.
still on the same facing, but on.
Yeah, it's going to be forward more.
And you're reprogramming where was the main entrance and
Right.
also putting an outdoor patio.
That's correct.
Got it.
This east, that's the side that faces Seaside Lagoon, not the parking lot.
Yeah, this side here.
To the right of the plan view.
Yeah. So this is, Seaside Lagoon's over on this side. And then this is the east side kind of facing this way. And then,
Yeah, the mouse moves too fast.
Yeah,
oh, sorry.
moves real fast.
Yeah. If you slow down the mouse a little bit, it's easier to follow.
Yeah, so it's, so this is the area looking here. And then this is the area looking this way. And this is the area.
The gate
right
that you were
here.
saying that opens during business hours is the one on the east elevation there?
Yeah, so let me see if I can see it on back here. This is the gate here, and this is the doorway. So this is kind of slides open. So this is looking from the parking
South.
lot.
Okay.
It's looking towards, and then Seaside Lagoon is in the back there. So it'd be in this area here.
Well, the gate that goes along that pathway
Right
to the promenade
Yeah, so that's a man gate right here.
would always be open?
That's something that we could talk about. I think what the applicant is asking to do is actually secure that. And there's a deck with some steps. So here, I would imagine that this would be open so that people can use this space.
And
That's something we could
yeah,
clarify with the
what was
applicant.
negotiated with city council was the ability to close this off so that the two properties internally could share customers going back and forth. That was done for a couple reasons. One, to kind of produce synergy between the two properties. Two, to eliminate a homelessness problem that happens within that pathway currently that the tenant has to deal with today. And three, to kind of prepare for what we presume Seaside Lagoon will eventually take over the remainder of that pedestrian pathway. And the Seaside Lagoon would actually get bigger and push towards the building, creating a common boundary between the existing lease line and the new expanded Seaside Lagoon. But knowing Seaside Lagoon's still a couple of years out, in the meantime, this would essentially close off the pathway, resolve the homelessness issue, and create that synergy.
So that shortcut to the hand launch is envisioned to go away.
Yeah, it would
Yes.
go away with this. But there's still access around the building itself. And then, as you're aware, our full intent with the Seaside Lagoon rehab is to create a new pathway, long-term.
So the intent there is you come in with your bicycle or just an individual and walk in through that gate and then you enter either
I
facility
think we could ask the applicant what his intent with the entrance is, but.
Because I see the bike racks there, right?
Right.
It says bike storage.
Right. So that's something that we can ask the applicant to respond to. The former Ruby's is, this kind of highlights some of those changes out there. Again, the deck is being expanded outwards to where the coral trees are. And then there's the wall or fence that would be created along that edge, where the parking lot is. And then there would be a entrance lobby addition on the back here towards the front of that, kind of squaring off the building. Let's see. So again, with this, staff's recommending that there be a couple of recitals added to the whereases. One, that the Seaside Lagoon is anticipated to be rehabbed as part of the waterfront amenities plan and expand to the south, which will encompass the existing walkway. And whereas the pedestrian access to the hand launch area is maintained around the building towards the south at 239 North Harbor Drive. There's a couple of conditions that we wanted added as a condition of approval that would be applicable to both buildings. We want the delivery vehicles to use Burrell Street via Harbor Drive only. And then for 239 Harbor Drive, we would want a condition carried over from the other CUP that says that the applicant's going to hold harmless the city for any damage that results from blowing sand or stormwater to any of the facilities that they build. And then lastly, for the Rubies, we want to reintroduce the restriction on alcoholic beverage services at the walk-up window, because that will be adjacent to the Seaside Lagoon.
Now, there isn't a requirement right now for that walk-up window in the CUP, is there?
We actually removed that condition the last go around. So there's not, it's not there.
It seems like we should add that back if we're going to say no alcoholic beverages.
Right. So that would be adding that back in. Again, something that we want to discuss with the applicant and then make sure that he's going to be okay with that additional condition, abiding by it, because he did ask the Harbor Commission to have that removed the last time.
Okay, is Alan going to come up and speak, or do we have to call him?
Absolutely.
Well, I would advise, if you have any questions for Antonio, it sounds like we kind of have had that going for a little while, but if you feel comfortable inviting Alan up, he can kind of speak to some of your questions and we can continue the discussion.
Yeah, so just one more thing, last slide here. I'm just going to wrap up that, again, these are minor additions. We worked with the applicant to make sure that these would be exempt from a CDP, and we still feel that pretty strongly that they're exempt from a coastal development permit application. The ongoing operations in the coastal area are considered an amenity to visitors, and that's in compliance with the LCP. It still complies with the purposes of the zoning code and specifically the LCP implementation ordinance here, and staff's recommending approval of these changes.
And for a CUP, we have to make a declaration that's compliant,
Yes,
and that's in there.
yes.
Okay, I don't remember that, but okay, I'll trust you.
I have one quick one. On the previous page, the recommendations,
Yes.
you say delivery vehicles should use Barrel Street. I think you want to say Portofino Way.
It's, well, yeah, we can include Portofino Way. It just depends on how they exit, because it could be,
Just a nit.
yeah, it could be either or, but we want to focus the truck traffic to Burrell Street,
Definitely.
Away from Pacific.
away from Pacific.
Well, and away from the bike lane too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that too. Are you
That's
saying
true.
they can't access from Harbor Drive? Only
once
Burl?
That would be, yeah, they can right now. They can. But if we restrict it to Portofino, that would mean that all the delivery traffic would have to use Portofino only.
And that's just a better way to go with the bike path, if
Sure.
nothing else. So anyway, just,
That's a
Thank you.
That's a
Yeah,
good,
thanks.
good point.
Is Commissioner Light?
Good observation.
Wouldn't it be cleaner just to say shall not use Harbor Drive Pacific for entry or egress?
And leave it up to them.
Then it leaves up to them whether they're driving down Portofino Way or if
do
they
it
come
that
up
way,
Harbor
too.
Drive the whole way, or if they come down Barrel.
I mean,
It just seems cleaner since we're really focusing on keeping traffic off Pacific.
it sounds like the intent from, and we'll hear from the resident, I'm sure, and Antonio, is to keep it off Pacific. So that would do that as well.
Absolutely, yeah, we could write it that way as well.
Yeah, I think it's clear.
Yep.
Might as well go straight to it. Is there any other questions? Yes?
Yeah. So I had a question on the numbers, and one of them was the parking spots. I'm just curious, why didn't we use the more lenient numbers last December? Because what's shown here is so drastically different.
I didn't look at it carefully because there was no net difference in the changes of the operations. And I just used the more restrictive of the two without looking in depth at how the staff report was written, the minutes.
Yeah.
And so then this time, it's like, well, if we look at the more lenient standard, it gives them a break on the parking.
In Antonio's defense, parking regulations are mandated by square footage. And the last time it was same for same. So no change in square footage, no change in parking requirements. What's there is okay, we're good to go. But in this case, they were expanding the square footage, they were expanding the seat count. He had to do a deeper dive, found this historic kind of regulation and said, oh, we should have applied that in the first place.
Right.
Okay, yeah, because I saw for 239 Harbor, it was 83, and now it's 52.
Yes.
And for 245 North Harbor, it was 104. Sorry,
Right, so it-
63, and now 104.
That's correct.
Okay. And then I was confused on, similarly, the number of seats and the square footage didn't seem to jive with last December.
Right, I think the important piece here is that when we look at outdoor dining, anything that exceeds 500 square feet triggers a CUP requirement for us. And it really doesn't matter the size of the outdoor dining area. To us, we start looking at this number of seats. That's really what kind of governs the parking. And so that's the key piece to focus in on, is actually the number of seats. And we just wanted to document the actual square footage of the outdoor area, because in entitlements in the past, it's been not very clear as to what that was.
If you saw the history of all the CUPs and you looked into the site plans for each one, it was very inconsistent on what that building was. What we're doing here, because Alan's done such a great job of figuring out what's existing and what he's proposing, is we're memorializing what's truly out there now and what he's proposing to do with this. So this is truly an accurate representation.
Right. Much more accurate than what we've seen
Okay,
in the
let
past.
me make sure I understand what you're saying. So like for 239 North Harbor, in December, it said 124 outdoor seats, max 3,400 square feet. And the current changes say 5,400 square feet and 4 less seats, 120. So are you saying that the seats were never 124, and so that's why we're doing 120? And then I don't understand why the square footage is so much more. You're saying that's because
Yeah, we
for
didn't.
whatever reason, it was way more than the previous
Yes.
resolution allowed?
We don't, yeah, it wasn't explicitly called out as to what the outdoor seating area was in the prior entitlements. It only had a seat count. It didn't have the area. And so when we looked at this now, the last time, we said, let's try and capture what that area is and memorialize it in the CUPs. And that's exactly what we're doing here.
Okay. And just for on the record, what it also said for 245 North Harbor was 102 seats and 3,000 square feet. And now we're asking for 154 outside seats and looks like 363 plus 1,069 extra for 4,732 square feet. So a lot more outdoor seats and a lot more square footage from last December. Again, you're saying that's just correcting
It
what's
is there,
there today plus
right.
what they're adding, which is clear.
Yeah, again, the key issue here is looking at the seating, and there's no net change in the total number of seats, and that was really the governing factor. But because
Yeah,
the
but it
parking
says
standard is,
102 outdoor seats last December, and now it's 154.
for 245,
Yes.
the exterior seats are proposed as 168.
And in December of last year, it was
102.
102.
So you have 56 more seats,
Okay. Okay, those are my,
or 66, I'm sorry.
Because it's more accurate now, basically.
It's,
The bottom line is there's no net change in numbers of seats.
right.
The bottom line is, we actually know the true square footage out there. We know, based on his floor plans, the true seat count. We look at the historic parking regulation that we're applying, right? And we're creating ourselves a very accurate representation of what's required out there. Kind of rectifying a lot tonight.
And, you know, to be honest with you, we don't really know what the parking demand truly is. But it's going to fall somewhere in between the more lenient parking standard and the harsher or more rigorous parking standard, somewhere in between. We don't have historic data that will tell us if during the operations of these restaurants in the past, if the entire parking lot was full with patrons of those two restaurants.
I guess one last question, because I went back and looked at the December 22, and then from last year, we referenced those older resolutions as well. So it's kind of you had to piece together history. Similarly here, does it say like we're cleaning up numbers that were wrong from the past?
Our
So we
staff
don't have to
report,
reinvent the wheel again?
our staff report, which is associated and on the record, does that.
Okay, I guess I missed that verbiage that it was correcting.
We could always add a whereas in the recitals,
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
acknowledging that.
I think it's a good idea.
Okay.
Yeah, because it clears up confusion in the future.
Absolutely.
So they know the history.
We can absolutely do that.
All right. Is there any other questions before we ask Mr. Sanford?
I don't have a question, but a comment. I mean, we really don't have a good handle on that whole parking lot from a parking perspective. And we're going to be reconfiguring it for a boat ramp, which we've never had. And part of that, which we're talking later on the agenda, is to do a full parking analysis and circulation analysis of the whole thing. So I actually feel okay with this now, because until that boat ramp is open and we approve whatever comes out of that, there's all, it's underutilized right now. We closed Joe's Crab Shack. These two venues have not been open forever. There's vacancies down at the Fun Factory. So I feel okay with what we're doing here, because we're going to address it when we do the major reconfiguration with the boat ramp.
That's a good point.
When we get the new parking system, we'll start to get better data on occupancy, right?
We get all kinds of great data on that. Because, I mean, this truly is a shared parking lot with not just them, but Captain Kids. I know they've got their little cutout, but that'll likely change when we redo the whole thing. And we've got the R10 site, and we've got the boat launch, and which has its own parking requirements, right? So this whole thing is, it's going to get completely restriped, completely redone, all based on a parking study and circulation study. We'll have a lot more footing in the near future.
Thanks, Antonio.
Yeah, thank you so much, Antonio. Any other questions? All right, let's give me bring up Alan Sanford for some questions, I suppose. Thank you so much.
How's everyone going, commission members?
Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Just a few notes and then I'm open for questions, just some clarifications. You are right, there was some incorrect data. We've had a heck of a time, getting as-bills done. There was 0 plans available to us, so We hired a professional surveyor. We surveyed that entire property, and we even said, oh, wait a minute, these numbers are not right, right? So you can rest assured that this is all licensed surveyor work and kind of cleaning this up moving forward. And to what Commissioner Light said, I spent the vast part of COVID learning about this mole. I had a lot of free time on my hands. There's no parking analysis to that whole puzzle. So I think it's a little bit of a blind spot for the entire city. We all know it's considerably underserved right now and empty most of the time, even at the supposed busiest time this year of summer when the lagoon was supposed to be full. And, I'm down there every day and I could count on, there's probably 100, 200 cars. The busiest time's actually that car show. So this was a great kind of opportunity actually to correct a lot of things. What I would challenge you guys with is when you're redoing the parking and thinking about things, let me kind of throw this out there. There is not one place to park a bike in that entire 846 space parking lot. We are very actively promoting people using alternative transportation. If you see with Beach Life, ride your bikes to the beach, skateboard to the beach. One of the big problems we came up with is we're planning all this messaging and media, and then somebody on our team said, where do people park their bikes? So I hope you guys can help us. I've considered this a partnership. I would love people come into the California Surf Club riding their bikes, but right now I don't have a place to tell them to put their bikes.
It looks like you made room for it though in your.
Those are the bikes we supply the members. So we will have 20 to 30 bikes that you can come down and use.
I got it. Thank you.
Partially because it's so hard to park your bike. So one of the amenities that we're offering is we'll have a fleet of bikes that you can come down, park, and then go where you may. And that's what's represented down there.
Okay.
In that area, yeah. Other than that, we've spent a ton of time on this site plan. We're very excited about it. We feel like we're really utilizing the property how it should be, moving the entrances, utilizing the most beautiful views, which is on that curve of that building, which used to be used for an entrance. That's why we moved the entrance back. So I'm open for any questions you guys may have.
Thank you so much. So I'll open it up for questions.
So Alan, can you go through how that gate would be utilized?
Yeah, so something really important was making these properties contiguous, the flow through energy of the properties and how this operation is gonna act. And so, and two kind of things led to where the city council and I ended. One is, it is not a secret that there is a significant problem at night down there, that there was a murder a month ago. That is not a safe aisleway to walk in after dark, which presents a huge dilemma for my employees, even right now. And then you start to add kids to this equation, and this is just not conducive to what we're trying to do. So that coupled with the second fact, which is we want these properties to be contiguous, ended in a conversation with the city council where we negotiated a lease to connect, which would create a situation where that gate is more of a managed access gate. It's not going to be wide open. That would be like people walking into the back door of a restaurant, right? So when you have a restaurant or any operation, you want some semblance of order. You want to know who's coming through the door. You want to seat them properly. What that area is more for, that'll actually be a big garden. What you're not seeing on the plan is all the landscaping that we're going to be doing around the coral trees. So that
native plants?
Native plants. Sure. I've heard you say, I've heard that one. But what we want to do is each of these areas is going to be kind of a special place on its own. And one of the things down here that you can't do is there's no kind of like refuge. There's no quiet area. So that wall actually becomes quite important, which is the main reason I'm back here tonight. If you go down there and you park your car, I had a restaurant in Pasadena for a long time in Colorado. And one of the things I didn't realize when I bought that restaurant is the exit of the parking garage looked at our restaurant. And I didn't realize this till the first night of our operations, but the headlights every night leaving the restaurant blasted into the window, right? So I was sitting on that patio sometime between after our December meeting and now, and I was looking at different viewpoints and what's good. And I noticed a car pull up, right? And I go, oh, wow, I'm going to get blasted the back of my head all night, right? So the last thing you want when you're dining down here is to know you're in a parking lot. So there's got to be some foliage. There's got to be a separation there to separate you. And so all of our seating, if you look at how we did it, it's all facing forward out to the ocean. And I want some sense of, I don't know about you guys, but when I eat or when I'm sitting, I don't like to feel naked from behind, like somebody could walk up to me and do something. So hence that wall, which is going to be mostly hidden with vegetation. So it's not a big, ugly wall. It's more like, if you look at it, it's got a planter in front of it. We're going to be doing some palm trees and some native vegetation. So it's really the primary reason. And then for the garden, it creates a little bit of refuge where it's not wide open again to a parking lot.
Now, you say it's contiguous. Is there a way for you to get between the two during normal operations?
Yeah, so what we do have in there is a 10-foot fence that opens up, right? And so based on the programming of the day, that fence will oftentimes in the daytime be open.
Where's that?
It's
239?
You see where the bikes are? It's to the right of the bikes. Is there a way to magnify that?
There's,
The bottom right?
You have a
there?
laser pointer?
No.
No.
nope.
I think you could, if that's a PDF on the bottom right, there's that magnifying glass.
Yeah. A little 2-bar there?
That you could get in closer. You just gotta
Yeah.
click magnify.
Sorry.
No problem. Yes, and
This one?
That's it.
Yeah, just keep on.
Click on it a couple times.
Oh, right there. Okay. See in the middle of that oval at the bottom there, Jim?
Yeah,
That's a 10-foot sliding fence.
yeah.
So a lot of our operational time, that'll be open so people can come in and grab bikes, right? But then at nighttime, we would, when restaurant operations are kind of ensuing, we'd close that gate.
But you can somehow get into 239 from 245 across?
Yeah, right there. There's a double door entrance to the patio.
Right here.
Uh-huh.
Okay,
That's an existing entrance.
okay, got it.
So what's great about this property is we've cut it up in so many pieces that there could be a party on the patio while there's another thing going on the inside, and we need some multiple entrances, right? So we've built it in a very convertible fashion.
No, I like it.
Yeah.
I know you sent me something. Can we go to the view of the 245, and can you show me where you walk in from Seaside Lagoon to approach the order counter?
Mm-hmm. So you guys are right. Last time we did pull this from the CUP, and the reason we pulled it from the CUP is I'm totally open to getting into it tonight, but there's some operational things that we would need to discuss. We've kept the opening. If you look at N112, it says pass through. There you go. So there'll be a pass-through window on the corner there of N112, right? Which is in the same similar area. There's a little abut to the building right now, right? So it's in a similar area that
I'm just wondering where they come through the handrail. You show a handrail and metal flush access panel.
Yes.
Where do they come in?
The same 8-foot, he just didn't put a jut in that line. There'll be the same 8-foot concrete pass over the culvert that exists will stay.
And there'll be a hole in the fence?
No, there won't be a fence there. There'll be a gate if we need to, right? So let's say this is why, right? You get into several use cases. So first use case is we want lagoon folk to be able to order food. Okay, great. Well, what about people here going out to the lagoon? The city doesn't want that. but I can't put security out there every hour of operation preventing that, right? So all of these kind of operational issues, I had assumed Greg and I would walk through and really discuss. But in the meantime, in our building, we would still build that pass-through window,
Okay.
right? So it's
Solutions TBD, are you okay with us putting that CUP requirement back? And are you okay with the CUP requirements that Antonio showed us before, plus the
Limiting the
CUP
alcohol.
that add in the pass?
let's put them, can we put them back up just so I can speak to them?
You gotta shrink back down.
Gotta shrink. Okay, yeah, get it back. There we go.
Yeah, so I think you're speaking to the last one.
Yes.
So the last one, so absolutely understand no alcoholic beverages because that's lagoon property, right? And that's your property to manage and to decide what is served on that property. On our property, we want to obviously reserve the right to serve alcoholic beverages, but we would understand that. Now that also creates an issue, right? So
Right.
let's, Tommy comes down to the lagoon, walks into our restaurant or into the outside area, orders a burger, but then orders a drink, and then freely walks back into the lagoon. I don't think the lagoon has management when it comes to anything of that sort, right? So my general modus operandi was to speak through all these operational edge cases with Greg to understand my partner, the city, on what
I
they want and
understand
they
you have to
don't
work that
want.
out, but are you okay with the condition being laid upon you?
The condition of no alcoholic beverages being served?
I think the walk-up window is the key.
Walk-up window.
two
The
words.
problem is you can't send a kid, if you're serving beer, right, you can't have a kid go up and say, I'd like a Coke.
Yeah. Look, I'm already building a walk-up window, so I don't see the necessity of the condition other than if you wanted to guarantee that. But now you're getting into things like, okay, is it required to be open a certain amount of time? If there's not enough business in the lagoon, I can't staff a business to serve nobody, right? So what I don't want to get into is you need to have a pass-through window with the business open anytime the lagoon's open, right? There has to be demand. There has to be some economics around the requirement.
I don't know how we gauge that, though.
I think it's just mutual benefit, right? The goal is we would love to serve food. We would love for the lagoon to be busy,
I mean,
to be honest.
I think as
right?
long as he's open, the concept of serving Seaside
don't think
Lagoon
that's
is
what he's
open,
saying.
right?
Yeah, well, no,
He could be open, but
You
not have
could-
that sliding.
but a customer could walk inside, no problem. Right? Like, there's always the instance where, let's say the walk-up window's not open at that time. The customer can go walk right inside and still order food and take it out. Right? We don't want to stop that. There's,
Go all the way around?
no.
They can come in from the
On the
back.
patio, yeah. We
If you look
created
at that, there's
doorways
that pass-through.
inside.
If you go
But
back
you
to
still
that-
get into the can't serve kids if there's beer there.
Not true. I have tons of restaurants that serve Rockefeller that serves and kids can come in anytime.
I thought you had to be separate from a bar area.
No, not, and
Well, I'm out of my league. I'm just saying, are you okay with the condition?
what is the condition that you want?
It's what Antonio had written there.
No alcoholic
But
beverage.
A little too general,
Very
right?
respectfully, that condition is not written correctly because it infers there's a walk-up window to start. So sure, I'd be okay with that condition. And if I wasn't an honest person, what I'd say is, well, I don't have to have a walk-up window.
Well, that's what we're talking about, adding a condition to have a walk-up window, because that was in the previous CUP.
Right.
And I think that got pulled by an accident, because it's my understanding the council still wants that, right? Am I wrong?
They want the ability to serve
People in the-
Seaside Lagoon patrons with food.
Right.
Obviously, we're just trying to protect the alcohol beverage sales to Seaside Lagoon, which is more like a, city-run park, and we don't necessarily
Right,
want to
right.
create that. That's kind of what we're trying to do. So if there's a way that we can draft a condition that speaks to that, I think that's what we should do.
Yeah, that we would have a walk-up window and work with the city to develop best practices. I'm already building the walk-up window, so I'm totally amenable to having a walk-up window, right?
But you don't like it as written there.
That's fine.
You're okay with no alcoholic beverages
Out of the walk-up
served at
room.
the walk-up window?
Yeah, because the walk-up window is a little window that
Okay, I just want to make sure
So,
you're
yeah,
comfortable,
I would not have a.
because I'm very supportive of what you guys want to do down there. I'm just trying to make sure we're not laying something on you that,
I think I'm going to bring in another condition and talk about, I think you bring up a really important point, which is to not strangle the bunny before there's success, right? So the other conditional and of delivery vehicles on Burl, which I totally respect on Pacific, that's not a commercial street, right? Is a bit, to think that you guys are going to fix a current problem by putting this requirement on one business, that's not a solution. What it is, I don't even know what it is. The right way to do it would be, for example, I'm the president of the RVA. The King Harbor Association getting all the businesses together, starting to talk to vendors and creating a traffic pattern. The city creating in the municipal code not to allow commercial traffic, that's a fix. Putting a requirement where there is no way I can legally demand a vehicle from not using a public road.
Right. Yeah.
It's just not the right fix
so you
for
don't
the
want that
issue.
condition.
I just think it's going to lead me into an area where I could be potentially violating a CUP,
Unintentionally.
not even unintentionally, without, I can't
You don't have
control
the
it.
authority.
He has no authority. And he's right. I don't think it makes a lot of sense.
Right? So in the same way here, with the walk-up window, I want to create a mutually beneficial way to have a walk-up window. Am I okay with a walk-up window being in the CUP? Of course. Do I want to develop best practices with my partner, the city, to where it works for both sides? Yes. Right? I just don't want rules associated with that are going to cause issue later. That's all. So I don't think no alcoholic beverages in the walk-up window is what you're trying to solve. What you're trying to solve is we don't want the beverages in the lagoon.
That's right.
But that doesn't solve it because somebody could just go right next door to the bar and get it and walk in the lagoon. So you're not solving.
Right.
It's
But
just
you could put a
miswritten.
fence up, and that's the only way to get to the
Well, you
walk-up
could
window.
put a fence, right? But then you're not going to get what you want, which is people walking in to order food.
Well, you won't, but
I mean,
get the walk-up
you could
window.
even be a little bit more general and say the applicant shall work with city staff to create an operational plan that discourages alcohol beverages going into Seaside Lagoon and leave it at that. And that way
okay with that?
that way it shows the intent of not allowing alcohol beverages to go into Seaside Lagoon.
All I don't want is to be forced to have an economic sanction that all of a sudden requires me to have a security guard 12 hours a day or things like that just don't make sense. So, in my world, in the private business world, we call it mutually beneficial operating agreement, right? It's something that benefits both parties. And there would be no reason that I wouldn't want to serve food to people in the lagoon. There's no reason for me to want bad things to happen to my partner. I just don't want to be held to unrealistic economics or hours of operation or things of that sort. I want to really fix the problems versus just putting some language in here that I don't think speaks to it.
Yeah, and that particular problem is going to be a tough one to solve, right? If the reality is people are going to be able to, you're going to have a bar there, so you could order a drink and take it back to the Seaside Lagoon if you.
You've got coolers now.
Right. That's right. You have coolers now. Good point.
I don't mean to surprise you, but I would say half the people in there are already drinking. So.
What?
I'm
Shocked.
I mean, I think that's a much bigger discussion on what the lagoon is in 2023. So we're trying to stop somebody from ordering a beer, except for half the people in the lagoon have.
Right.
Exactly that. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. I'm personally okay with striking that, but
that's all. Thanks, Alan.
but thank you so much.
Anybody else? I've kind of dominated this.
No.
Oh, I had one question. From last December, maybe I misunderstood. I thought part of your concept was to be able to utilize the kitchen from Ruby's to serve 239. So how do your personnel get from one to the other? On the outside sidewalk?
So we created a transit plan, which is part of the reason that we're not creating a kitchen at 239. We're creating basically almost like a prep area to receive the food. So we have a transit plan that we ran through with the health department where we'll have carts going into the back, that back area, then prepping the food and then bringing it into the restaurant, much like a pool at a hotel. Right, the food comes up from the bottom floor in carts. We prep it inside of this room and then we walk it out.
But that transit path is in front of your new wall?
There's three transit plans. For big parties, there's a golf cart that goes
Okay.
out the back of Ruby's, down and around, right to that double door at the bottom left. And then there's a smaller transit plan for smaller stuff that would be right through our patios into those double doors of the bigger patio, right? Or down the sidewalk and in.
Okay.
And that's the work between December and now that we've been doing, is working with the health department to develop all those plans.
Because on a day-to-day basis, aren't you envisioning that last path?
I'm envisioning all the paths. Yeah,
I guess every day you're going to be transiting food from one to
every
the
day.
other.
Yeah, constantly.
Thanks.
Active lifestyle serving. Lots of steps.
All right. Are there any other questions? Yes.
I'm thrilled.
Yeah, I am as well. I love you.
I have some questions for, I think, Greg, not Alan,
Okay.
when we're through with Alan.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you guys very much.
Thank
Alan.
you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
So these are kind of side issues, but in the interest of maintaining the hand launch access when that sidewalk goes away, I knew that sidewalk was tough at night, but when you are launching a board there, when the parking lot is full, and especially when the short pier parking lot is full, all the parking closest to the hand launch, yeah, that's a good one. All the parking to the left where it says existing public parking lot,
Yeah.
that area fills up first because you got people going into the restaurant, going out onto the short pier. And so you end up parking kind of south of the building. That wasn't a helpful comment. In the other spot where it says existing public parking lot. So that's where I generally used to park when I was using the hand launch. And I'd cut through that shortcut to get back to my board or whatever as fast as possible before somebody swiped it.
Sure.
So in the interest of helping people out, I know we've been adding security cameras. Are there existing security cameras in Seaside Lagoon? Could we point one at the hand launch and put up a sign saying camera surveillance here?
We don't have it currently. There is a movement to increase our security camera coverages with the new CIP project. One big obstacle to that is the current Wi-Fi situation down there. So option 1A is to fix our Wi-Fi, which our new IT director is working on and making headway on. Once we let that domino fall, then the security coverage will increase. We can certainly add Seaside Lagoon to that. And to be honest with you, obviously when we redo Seaside Lagoon, we can absolutely include that.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. And this may be a question for further on, but further on in this meeting, I think you're talking about new electronic signage. Will that all be on Harbor Drive, or will any of the new electronic signage encourage use of the new Portofino Way entry?
So that's actually going to be at the next hearing, but
Okay.
it is for all types of electronic signage.
Okay. And my last question is, when are the showers in the Seaside Lagoon going to get fixed?
I'll look into that for you. I don't know offhand.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Just to piggyback on that, maybe when we were doing the parking lot, or as soon as this alley is cut off, that lot on the right, maybe we somehow make it have signage kind of preferential toward the hand launch, since it'll be much closer than any of this other.
Yeah, it may become part of the traffic flow pattern, but once that other entry opens
Yeah.
up.
Our next item talks about the studies that are necessary for the boat launch.
Yeah.
We're really going to get a good handle on parking and circulation with that study, and that'll hopefully happen within the next year,
Yeah, and one of the requirements of Measure C was to designate parking and preserve it for recreational uses of the harbor. So So there's got to be the circulation study, the whole parking demand study, and then how do you meet
Right.
Measure C?
We're going to learn a
While
lot
you're
with
doing
this
that,
boat
so-
launch.
Yeah.
I'm actually okay with shutting down that pathway because number one, we showed it in the amenities plan when we did it, right? We moved that path next to the lagoon coming from the other side of what's Ruby's now 245. So that was already closed and it's normally going to be closed because that was a movable fence. You know, you'd have to move that fence for it to be accessible. Second is because we're expanding, I like the whereas because it shows the intent in the amenities plan to expand Seaside Lagoon into what is currently the sidewalk. So we're not violating the access requirements of the Coastal Act. And third is there's an existing access that's just 150 feet south. So it's not like you have to walk a mile to get around it.
Right.
So with those three things in place, I'm actually okay with closing that down. And I think the whereas spell that out very well now, so.
Thank you. And just to add, this is a short-term issue. Seaside Lagoon will be providing a long-term solution, a new pathway. And that project isn't, we'll get to it. It's funded and we're designing it now. So it's something that's in the foreseeable future.
It's a short-term issue, but I've never seen so much use of the hand launch, especially with big heavy fish and kayaks.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
those
get
those
it.
things are 200 pounds and $5,000.
Yeah.
Yeah. So public. Yes, do we have any public comment right now?
We do have
open the public
a
hearing?
member of the public here to speak on this issue.
You had the green card, so.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I have a green card. Thank you so much.
Have we
No,
opened the public
let's-
hearing?
Wait. Yeah, that's right. I have to close, no, just
No, not
open the
yet.
public hearing. Perfect.
We have opened the public hearing, right?
Got it.
Gosh, did we do that?
I don't think we did,
I'd
but
like to make a motion to open the public.
Do you have a second?
essentially, yeah.
In
Good.
case we didn't, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. My name is Mike Hamilton. I live at Seascape 2, which is at 110 The Village. For perspective, I live on Pacific, just directly across from the buildings we're talking about. In fact, as I look out my windows, I can see the top of both of those buildings. That is my perspective. I'm coming tonight because I've made a whole bunch of different comments electronically, but I want to make one specific one, and that is to please consider improving Pacific Avenue as you go through and make changes into the waterfront area. The reason is that drive, that street has become very dangerous. It's a smaller street. There's only a sidewalk on one side. The lighting is only on half the street. It is a service area for large trucks, garbage trucks, deliveries to the hotel, along with pedestrians, along with vehicles, and along with a lot of bicycles now wanting to get to places like the development we're talking about. So it's become, especially during places like beach life, there's a lot of access to and from, which is not a normal case, but it's building more and more. And it's ripe for an accident. One of the requests that I had was to make trucks, if you will, to ingress and egress off of Barrel or Portofino Way, possibly using the north gate of that parking lot to come in and out, to avoid adding additional congestion to Pacific and to Harbor Drive. The bottom line is like I said, Pacific Avenue is way too small, way too busy to add additional traffic on. And in risk management, there's a phrase, if it's predictable, it was preventable. And I'm telling you, there is going to be an accident. It's predictable. In fact, in my estimation, it's inevitable. So I'm just asking, as we go through, as we make these changes, please let's look for good ways to get traffic, again, coming off of larger streets, more direct streets. And like I said, in the specifics for this instance, one of the questions I had is whether or not there can be some additional conditions or other ways that we can make sure that vehicles, large construction vehicles, large delivery vehicles are brought through off of Barrel / Portofino Way and brought in from that side, if at all possible, again, to reduce the traffic and impact. I thank you for allowing me to present this and consider my
Thank you.
comments. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes.
Greg, wouldn't that go to public safety?
I mean, general improvements to streets is usually a public works. I think that commission is called like the
Public
Public
safety.
Works and Conservation. They changed the name of it
Oh, did they?
recently. But I mean, it's certainly something we can relay to Ted Simon and let him know of the
I
issue.
mean, it could be stopped with just a sign that says no vehicles over a certain size,
I'm sure there's tons of solutions, yeah.
but that's not our
That's not,
position.
Not really.
Yeah.
no, but we can ask you to relay something to that.
Yeah, of course.
Yes. Thank you.
I think we should do that. All right. Any other public comment? Is there any e-comment or?
No other comments.
All right. Well, thank you
I
very
move we
much.
close the public.
Let's close the public hearing. And any second?
Is there
on that?
anybody else who wants to speak?
That's what
There's nothing
you
else.
just
Oh,
did.
okay.
Yeah.
I thought maybe Mark had something to say.
He shook his head.
Do we have
Okay.
a second on?
Second on
All
closing.
right. Oh,
Dave, can you
Okay,
bring
I'd-
the PowerPoint back up? so
Yeah,
that
I'd like
they-
to
they
make a
can bring that-
motion, and can you put the conditions up?
back up?
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the CUP with the following changes. We include the two whereases that are shown in the PowerPoint slides. That we delete the condition of the delivery vehicles. I didn't ask, but Alan, I assume you're okay, well, can't do that now. I assume you're okay with 239, you're not going to hold the city responsible for sand and
I
storm.
think he wanted to change it to best practices.
He's talking about
No,
the,
I'm talking about
no, he's talking about the
the water damage.
Oh, okay.
yeah, it actually, yeah, legally, I don't think the E could anyway. Yeah. But it's not bad, it being there. But I don't think you have any issue with it.
It's bringing it back. It's something that was in the old CUP. Am I right?
Okay.
Antonio?
That's correct.
Okay.
it's on 245 already.
Leave that one in. And replace the no alcoholic beverages with there shall be a public walk-up window
practices.
from Seaside Lagoon with the operational details to work out between the applicant and the city.
Do I have a second for that?
Second.
All right, I'd like to have a roll call vote on that.
Any discussion?
Oh, you're right. Let's have discussion. I fully support that. I think that, from what I hear
Can
tonight.
I also add a friendly amendment? There was originally an additional whereas to clarify the cleanup work that was done
Yeah,
historically.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
let's add
yes.
that.
Whereas the CUP has been revised based on
Reality?
new parking
Yeah, I think we
data.
could come up with some language, but
Something, yeah.
Yeah.
No. All right, can we have a roll call vote on this now massaged amendment?
Sure. Commissioner Light,
Aye.
Commissioner Kazan,
Aye.
Commissioner Callahan,
Aye.
Commissioner Carlson,
Aye.
and Chair Bauer.
Aye. Yeah, we did have a
Motion
second.
And I'd like to make
5-0.
a second motion. I'd like that the commission recommend referral to Public Works to analyze solutions for deliveries on Pacific
Second.
lighting.
Hmm?
And lighting.
And lighting, yeah.
And
Yeah,
lighting.
and lighting.
Yeah.
Second.
All right, let's have a roll call.
I'd like to discuss it.
Let's discuss it. I'm sorry.
Because we've been bugging that same group to fix the lights and the turns on Harbor Drive across the bike path. And, haven't seen anything good there.
Took 7
I'm going to
years
kill
for
a
you to-
bike at Yacht Club Way or at Marina Way and the bike path. And I'm saying that here so that when I do it, you've all heard it and you know it wasn't on purpose.
Well, can we do it, make a friendly
I
amendment? to
really worry about traffic flow in that whole area. And, I don't know if we have a traffic engineer or not, but it's not good.
I think we just hired one like weeks ago. So new to the job, but at least we got one.
I would love to have that person look at everything from Harbor Drive at Redondo all the way down and around Pacific. Because as our guest said, if it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Are you okay with expanding it
Yeah,
past
I accept the
Pacific
friendly
to
amendment.
cover that whole area?
But I think, wasn't part of your, you
So
don't think
my-
Public
my-
Works
my
Commission's going to act on it?
My concern was just venting that we've been referring similar problems to Public Works for as long as I've been on this commission.
Okay,
And
so,
I sit at those lights for
so let's
5
expand it.
minutes every day, wishing we could fix it.
Let's expand it to what you said from end to end, and referral to Public Works Commission, but also, a referral to the city council to make them aware of our concern and the inaction that's happened on that.
And I do hope we fix this with a real traffic study. You know, when you start to bring in construction traffic
Right.
and God help you, heavy trucks towing boats, you know, we will need to study this.
I hate to
but-
sound like a broken record, but again, when we do the circulation and the parking study, we're going to learn a whole lot about that whole
Yeah.
area and how it impacts.
If we
and it'll
can
be a
fix
good
it-
basis for
Yeah.
that traffic
I
engineer.
hope we can fix it for real, but
Right.
if, as long as we're putting Band-Aids on Pacific, if we can take advantage and put a Band-Aid on Harbor too, I'd love to.
Right.
So that's my,
So how do we stand? Are you okay with the?
I will vote for fixing anything. I'll vote for fixing Pacific if we can, but I just wanted to vent
Well, right
because
now it stands a
I
referral to,
I try to cross that bike path every day.
I understand. So the motion right now is to refer it to the Public Works Commission and to also refer it to City Council as a concern.
The expanded area.
The whole kit and caboodle, yeah.
Okay.
Are you okay with that?
I am, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Yes, and we have a second?
We have a second?
I think we have a second on the original
Yeah, we need a
proposal.
second.
Second the amendment.
Thank you.
Okay, let's have a roll call vote.
Commissioner Light,
Aye.
Commissioner Kazan,
Aye.
Commissioner Callahan,
Aye.
Commissioner Carlson,
Aye.
and Chip Bauer.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. I apologize for the rant.
No, it's needed, actually.
Thank
This
you,
is-
Alan.
Thank you.
Can I say one more thing on this topic?
Yeah.
I appreciated that Alan brought up the parking of bikes. I think I mentioned it a couple of months ago that from Yacht Club Way all the way down, there's no public
Right.
bike racks and there still aren't. So I don't
Yeah.
know if that referral from several months back
Well,
went the whole summer with nothing being added.
so, and I've talked to Alan about this as well. We're redoing that parking lot even before we redo it for the boat launch. Because we have to when we're taking away the in-person pay for your parking station that they have out there to the electronic version. And we have room in our budget to be able to include, since we're redoing the whole restriping out there, and redoing, there's a lot that's happening out there. We can absolutely put in the budget some bike racks that we can periodically put around there.
There is one,
It's all the way down. I mean, there's like
there's one set of bike racks that are above
Seaside.
International Boardwalk
Yeah.
at the north end.
For Captain
That's the
Kidd's.
only, and then right at the beginning, when you're coming down into the harbor, at the harbor entrance, there's a few there
Right.
and people use those. But they really use the railing down at International Boardwalk for the main
Yeah,
storage.
I've seen them using railings even like all the way to the Harbor Patrol, all that railing.
Yeah. I mean, I can commit to the specific parking lot that we're talking about with this project that I'm speaking about, the CIP
Yeah.
project that's going to happen this year. But for the entirety of the harbor, that's a bigger situation. I mean, we can try to,
There's a couple in the bushes at Blue Water Grill. They said they own them. Maybe they'll just give them to the city and you can reallocate them.
Well, this is one where I was concerned about the Captain Kidd's, because there is dead area there where you could put
Yeah.
bike racks in if.
I mean, and part of it is we can talk to the property owners or tenants and see if they want to place them there for us. I mean, there's some negotiation tactics too. Because there's a benefit there for them too, like to have the
Yeah,
bike
I mean,
racks.
a couple private businesses have them,
Yeah,
but
thanks, Antonio.
Yeah.
if you're gonna
Is there an action
park,
or a motion?
Yes.
anyhow.
Is there-
I
yeah, is there-
don't want to get too off topic.
Is there an action or a motion for J1 for, now that we've passed a couple motions, but is there something else we need to do for,
No, J1's done.
J1 is done?
J1's
I'm
done.
just asking, I thought, Leslie, are you getting at a motion that you'd like to?
Maybe I need to do it at the end.
I mean, yeah, this is more of a referral.
I'll do it
sounds
at the
like.
end.
You make a
Yeah.
referral,
Okay.
yeah, but I agree wholeheartedly. We should be doing everything we can to encourage biking, certainly, or alternate means of transportation. All right, moving on to items continued from previous agendas, of which there is none. So items for discussion prior to action, and there's none. But now we move to L1, discussion and possible action regarding a request for proposals, RFP for the solicitation of engineering design firms for a new public boat launch at Moldy.
Yeah, I don't have a formal presentation for you tonight. I was just going to kind of walk you through it. I gave you guys the draft RFP about, I don't know if it was 2 weeks ago, but a little longer than you normally get to review these things because it was kind of a substantial document. But essentially, this is going to be, with your blessing, going forwards to City Council, hopefully in October. And with their approval of the wording would be the document that we try to attract an engineering firm to design and build our new boat launch at Moldy. To get specific, this exact RFP goes over the scope of work. It goes over the review process internally from staff on how we review the proposals that do come in. It goes over the submittal process. It goes over the appeals process. If someone feels like they were unjustly disqualified. It goes over the timing. It goes over the fact that this is kind of a funded project in two ways. The city is going to be funding the project through studies and entitlements, which means everything we've been talking about previously, the demand study, parking study, circulation study, the city would pay for those or pay this consultant to do those. The conceptual design, the public outreach, ultimately coming to this commission for ultimate approval of the design would all be paid for by the city, which we have $400,000 allotted to do so. Once we move in, once they do receive those entitlements and the Coastal Commission reviews and all that good stuff, and they move into what we consider the building permit process, creating plans that are way more specific in terms of what you're actually going to build, what the plans examiners look at, what our engineers look at, getting the permits approved, procuring materials, and constructing. That's actually going to be provided from DBA, the Division of Boating and Waterways with the State of California Parks and Rec. So in addition to helping us through this process, the RFP does require that this consultant help us with that grant application process. We've been in constant contact and communication with DBA regarding this process. We actually have to get the entitlement and the studies phase underway before they'll consider a project, knowing that that takes about a year to do. When we get about halfway, we'll kind of tell DBA, all right, now we're serious. You can see kind of the progress we're making. Let's start to kind of get this grant underway. And this contractor will help us do that. So they will essentially take us from cradle to final bore in terms of getting this thing finally built. They'll do the studies, they'll do the design, they'll do the public outreach, they'll get the entitlements approved at Harbor Commission. They'll then help us procure another RFP to get a contractor on place, someone who's actually going to build this thing. It could be the same company, right? But they might want to outsource it. They'll help us with that RFP selection. They'll help us administer the grant and keep track of working with DBA. They'll provide some oversight during building permit reviews just to make sure that whatever contractor they choose, whenever you get to the contractor stage, they always have, we can do this in a different way that saves money. And you look at it and say, are we still meeting the intent of the entitlements? They review all that stuff. So ultimately, it's a pretty complex RFP. I've gotten a couple comments from you already via email from several of you. So I do just want to open it up to general comments, what your initial kind of thoughts were, if you think we've hit the mark, if you think we've missed it anywhere. I think there's probably some issues with formatting, but we can iron those out before I get a final copy to council.
Let's get this show on the road. I've been doing this for 8 years, and it's like Groundhog Day. It just keeps coming back around and coming back around. This is, I think, as close as we've gotten. Let's just pull out the stops and say, let's get an RFP out there. Let's get it going.
I'm happy to get
second. I'm looking at the timeline, and best case scenario, I'm going to be dead. But
Don't say that.
it's going to be what, 5 years?
I think more like 4, but I think there's time that could be saved with Coastal Commission.
It'll open the same year that we have the Olympics. I mean, it's like. And that's best case scenario.
I know.
So let's quit diddle-doddling and let's get this show on the road and get it out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is shooting for June 1st, 2028.
Yeah, I really don't want to start nitpicking now. I would like to just get it, because it's going to come back to us so many times.
Yeah.
In so many different formats, for so many different reasons. Let's just go.
Yeah. The timings of the project's realistic, don't get me wrong, but it is a little conservative. I just don't want to overpromise to you guys in city council, you know?
Yeah, I think you came, I liked it. I think you came very close to hitting it right on the mark.
Yes.
I think
Best RFP I've ever read.
Oh, no.
Yeah, wow.
Special thanks to Jim. He kind of helped out with this one.
Yeah.
I noticed a different format.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice. I had one small comment, which is
Yeah.
the bidder qualification gets awarded, the bidder's qualifications is 15 points. For some reason, that seemed a little low to me, but you guys come up with.
Yeah, I think it's important in terms of qualifications, but I think previous work history and proposed kind of options to tackle this particular issue is more important.
Okay.
We've got quite a bit happening in a small harbor. This is not going to be easy design in terms of.
Oh, no. It was never, our harbor was never designed for this.
I'd prefer a company that can show that they've done this before and they can think outside the box to find solutions. But we are still awarding points to that category.
Right. Yeah, you got 15 points for if they're qualified, which I guess you do. You go back looking at it. Now, it just was a comment I had.
Yeah.
Overall, I'm with Commissioner Callahan here. I don't want to hold anything up.
Yeah, let's get it
That's fine.
going.
Yeah. Are there any other discussion or comments?
So I sent in a bunch of mainly pen and ink changes to
Yeah.
Greg to get consistent, because it uses boat ramp and boat launch different ways. So I sent in some
That's
consistency
housekeeping, yeah.
stuff, and there were some inconsistencies, like at one point I had two days or 2 pages for something and then 3, so I cleaned that up in that
Right.
recommend. So I'd hope you incorporate the pen
We'll
and
make
ink
sure there was some stuff that
Changes.
Just
definitely needs to be
housekeeping.
cleaned up. I mean, but we'll,
copies to Glad.
Is there I'm sorry, is there still time to send in?
yeah,
line?
absolutely.
Okay.
We plan to take this to council probably the last meeting in October, just based on how their agenda's shaking out. But, so yeah, I mean, anytime in the next week and a half, you want to get us some comments?
Okay.
Absolutely.
I had a couple other items. So a lot of my little comments, there's a map from the amenities plan which shows some different flows, and I just wanted to clean up some of the markings and labels on that. So I'll send those to you.
Okay.
On page 18/71, there's one section which says.
Can we bring it up?
Oh, yeah.
So we're all looking at the same thing?
Yeah, I do have a couple of questions I'd like to make sure we're all on the same page with, and hopefully maybe simplify it a little bit.
This thing's not showing. Let me go to the,
If you can't, that's okay.
this one should have it. I put it in here.
Well, I'll discuss the point while you're bringing it up. There's one section which discusses 30%, 60%, 90%, and then 100% deliveries. And it's reading between the lines, once you read the whole paragraph, it's clear that there will be public review at the 30, 60, and 90, not at the 100. And I just wanted to, the section could be a little clearer that there is a public review at each of those. And I just wanted to make sure we were all in agreement on that there is public review
So
at
my
each of
intent
those.
was the 90 to 100 is a very small.
I agree with that,
Getting
yeah.
into the
I agree with
details
not at
and-
100.
Okay.
Because 100 is just cleaning up
Yeah.
Yep.
And it would
a
just
little
delay
punch list
things.
from 90.
Yeah.
Roger, what page was it?
Page 18 in the presentation or 71 in the agenda.
18.
In
3069A.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was, there's one statement in the first paragraph 5, it says it will culminate with a public review. And I just want to clarify that it's each of the deliveries culminates with a public review and not the whole thing.
Right.
So And I'll send you that in writing, but I wanted to discuss that here just to make sure we were all in agreement that we get 3 public reviews, which I like.
So to me, I mean, I wrote that sentence so that it says all levels of review and it's part of the same sentence. So that was the intent.
Got it, okay. A question I had is, we list all the amenities we want in here and also something from the amenities, and also by pointing at the amenities plan, I was thinking of some other things we may want, like emergency call boxes or potentially an office there, which could later be used by a manager or harbor patrol or police. Is there time in the future to add amenities to this, or should we add those
Well, I
to
would
the
think we'd
RFP?
see that at 30, 60, and 90, and that would be the,
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly something we could consider, you know, I mean, the amenities plan is conceptual, right? It's a list of what we kind of want. If we want to put that in there, they'll certainly kind of take that as a must-have. But when we get through the public hearings and, it might be something that falls to the wayside because of room and, all that kind of stuff.
We keep saying we don't want to get in the weeds here, but at some point you got to get in the weeds. And so that's going to be at the 30%.
Well, I mean, the RFP is potentially an opportunity to get in the weeds. I mean, this is when we're saying this is what we want, right?
That's why I'm bringing this up now.
Yeah. I mean, I think
So I'd like to suggest adding
those elements.
a manager's office to the bathroom and shower building and an emergency call box somewhere. Because, we don't have a lot of staff, we don't have a lot of patrols, and there could be a problem here.
That's a good point.
That's a good recommendation.
That is, I think it's a good recommendation.
I don't know what we use that office for. I think of it like the little police station we have at the pier.
Right.
But you never know when we might need, a place to go indoors and fill out a form. How will we use this in the future?
At the very least, we're asking them to explore putting these things in. And if for one reason or another, there's just not enough space, or we, have second thoughts through the design process, it's not the end all be all, right?
Yeah. And then I've never seen an RFP, like this before. And I just wanted to know if including a WBS and rates and that kind city permits. And, if we can do anything in parallel to speed this up, do we really have to do everything serial, city permits and coastal commission? And does coastal commission really take that long?
A year for coastal commission, if there's no waivers, if they don't determine that this is, in compliance with your LCP, a year's probably about right. I think there's wiggle room there. I think we're going to be able to save time. I think this is exactly what they want to see out there. And if we do our due diligence with our environmental analysis, we'll be able to submit that analysis with whatever streamlined version, whether that be a waiver, whether that be through an over-the-counter permit from them rather than a public hearing from them, will justify them shortening that down a bit. So I think there's wiggle room in that, but we put a year in just in case that they want to see a public hearing on this thing. And if that's the case, a year's about right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Just to hold your feet to the fire, I move that we name it after Vicky if she dies before it's done.
Do I have a second?
And I want everybody to promise, if we're not on the commission, that we will all meet there for the christening.
Oh, that would
Yes,
be
for the
something,
christening.
right?
Yeah.
That would be something.
All my questions,
I
thanks.
appreciate that. Is there any other questions or discussion points on the RFP? And
Oh,
good.
I did have one more. This asks for a traffic study.
Right.
But it's not that clear on the scope of the traffic study. Is it just in the parking lot? Does it go to Harbor Drive? Does
Yeah,
it
it's
go
just
to the 405?
The project scope, which is MOLD. So it's all MOLD, and then that, the parking lot we were just talking about with Alan's project. So yeah, where the boat hoist is, all the way up to Seaside Lagoons parking lot right there.
It goes, I didn't think the picture went all the way up there.
But
for
the
the
traffic,
parking.
so the traffic study doesn't touch Harbor Drive or Pacific or Barrel?
No, it will, because there's ingress egress, right? So when we talk about bringing trailers into the area, it's about how are you planning to get those trailers from Harbor, where, if you don't want them coming down Pacific, there's going to be signs that say that, there's going to be a whole plan here for people bringing boats down there.
Okay, that wasn't clear to me in this. And if it's based on those maps from the amenities plan, it doesn't show the whole area.
Okay. We could try to make that a little bit more clear.
I'll send a comment on that.
Because that's the intent.
That's what I'd figured, yeah.
Yeah, like page 29 of the RFP is called Mold D Entry Drive Exit. But I think it cuts off some of the parking that you're saying is included, Greg?
This is it right here. All this.
Okay, I was thinking of a different map, so that's bigger than I
The
had
one right
thought.
before this, yeah.
But I'm sort of not kidding when I say maybe we want to go further than that, because I'm not sure if we want to encourage trucks and trailers to go over 190th. You got a stop sign on a hill. And if you don't have a great clutch, you might have some exciting backwards rolling.
Right.
You can go
On
around.
the other hand, if you go barrel,
On Burl around
It's-
190th.
that's a narrower street than it
It
used to
is.
be. It's more residential.
Yep.
I'm not sure we want to encourage that. So, I'm kind of not kidding when I say maybe we want to do a traffic study that goes further back.
We can certainly include some language that says, listen, the parking lot where we're going to restripe and make sure that once you're there, this kind of works, right? But we want you to evaluate kind of further out which roads are appropriate to approach said site. Wordsmithing here, but essentially, right?
I mean, I like the thought, in the immediate area, I like the thought of a truck coming across on Barrel and staying off Harbor Drive and crossing the bike path at a light. Harbor Drive is so narrow, it's tough.
Right.
But on the other hand, I hate sending big trucks and trailers, all down Barrel, down our only bike path, through all those stop signs, through those residential neighborhoods. So
I think
it's a tough little
okay
harbor.
to put a little bit broader a little bit of specificity in the paragraph that calls out, do the parking and circulation study. But the procedural list says, it's comprehensive, and it talks about current and future, current conditions, future projects in the area. And it also says coordinate on baseline and future project assumptions with city program manager, which will be Greg or one of his team.
Right.
So that's in the procedural list, but I think it would be good to put a little bit of that
Explicitly call it out, yeah.
into that paragraph where we call out that they have to perform that study.
Yeah, I don't see any,
I don't
there's
think
no
we have
harm
to
there.
wordsmith it here, do we, Greg?
What's that?
We don't have to wordsmith it.
No, if you give me direction, we can do it, I'm just going to be taking your recommendations, changing this RFP, and then presenting it to council. That way, together, we're all kind of in unison with this thing.
All right, I'll send a suggestion tomorrow.
Okay.
Thanks. That's all my questions now. Thank you.
Perfect. Commissioner Kruzan.
Oh, my light came back on.
Wow.
Yeah, and so this, the page before this, you might want to denote it differently. I don't know, just something to capture the traffic. And then I'm just noticing this is where we show number 2 there is trailer parking, and we just talked about ideally hand launch parking there. So
Again, this is conceptual.
that would,
We
I
don't know
guess,
how
be
this is gonna-
program director conversation saying
Well,
bigger scope, other,
this is just saying,
yeah.
we recognize trailer parking needs to be included.
Yeah,
Design it for us and we'll review it
right,
after you do the studies.
yeah.
Right.
I guess I sent some comments. A lot of them are just simple ones, but I wanted to highlight maybe more broadly what I emailed over to Greg. Some references. It sounds like we don't have any, it talks about providing parking spaces for these buildings that exist, but it sounds like we don't have anything to send them on that.
But yeah, I mean, this is gonna create a benchmark, I think.
They'll have nothing to start with, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if it would be helpful to, like, on one of these maps, show where the buildings are that you mentioned, because you mentioned that they're restaurant, event, office space, boat hoist, to help orient them a little bit better. And if there were existing studies that, like, sea level rise study and anything that was, good and recent about storm surge, sand movement, that type of thing as a reference.
We did a 2019 sea level rise study. It kind of shows the impacts of sea level rise 30 years, 50 years, and 100 years from now. And it shows kind of the impacts, well, throughout our whole harbor.
Yeah.
But we can absolutely provide that.
Okay. Just the high level edits, just some clarity in different areas when we talk about permitting, because it sometimes seems like they're leading or the city's leading, and whether it's just the labor or the labor and the permit. Because in other cases, it said like the DBW would pay for the permit, just cleaning that up.
Right. So DBAW is going to be paying for all the work associated with permits and construction and inspections. So essentially, we'll get a check from DBAW and then we'll pay our contractor to do the work. We'll be the pass-through.
Okay.
Leslie, before we leave that, on that sea level rise, I don't think we captured that, and that might be a good reference
I
document.
think so too, yeah. I mean, it's a really good point.
Yeah.
And we have that document. We should just include it as a attachment.
As a reference.
Yeah, yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
I just recommend that we exclude the schedule from this, with the schedules from the page count and the exec summary.
I'm sorry?
It calls for a schedule that ties to each schedule in the 2-page exec summary. Just recommend you don't count that in the page count.
Well, they have it later, so maybe we just eliminate it.
Yeah.
Just show a summary schedule. And eliminate that tiny
With
schedule.
schedules, yeah, that would,
Because it is good in an executive summary for somebody to see the broad schedule.
yeah,
But I agree, it could be too onerous if you put in all 20 seed room.
right. On page 11, it talks about studies and how they'll incorporate, but I think we should also say how they plan to execute the studies this is part of the technical approach section.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, presumably they would, but seems like we'd want to say that. Like, for example, the demand study about number of launch lanes, I would expect them to talk about how they might go about figuring that out.
How to do the study or how to,
How they would approach that demand study for the launch lanes.
Okay.
There's a general one that says for each of the statement of work items, they have to provide a narrative addressing the technical approach and work plan proposed to perform each of the work elements. So I kind of felt like we covered that.
Okay.
We don't want to go through and repeat that for each.
Yeah, no. Okay.
It's under 4A on page 11.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at, 4A.
It's right in the opening paragraph. Clearly demonstrate how the contractor proposes to accomplish each task listed in the statement of work and contract deliverable requirement.
Got it. Thanks. Page 13, for the experience, it says, within the last 5 years, show 3 examples. This isn't my area. We're certain that there's going to be a lot of people responding that even with COVID, that they'll have.
Yeah, I mean, that's a standard experience kind of criteria. Seaside Lagoon had the same one, and
Okay.
there was no issues.
Okay, I didn't know, because the timeline, it says last 5 years, 3 examples, and when their operational date was, and if these take 4 years. I just didn't know if that would eliminate.
Sometimes they just provide their 3 most recent ones, and if it's, outside the 5 years, that's fine, but.
Okay,
No, but I think she has a valid point because, this one's going to take 4 years, 5 years to get done. If we have a 5-year window, if they started anywhere beyond year 1, there won't be an operational.
Maybe we should just expand it to 10 years then, and.
Yeah.
Or eliminate that operational component.
What do you guys think? Eliminate the operational component or expand the years?
10 years is a long time.
yeah, I mean, you don't want to get
I like the
20 applications, but.
3
Yeah,
most
3
recent?
most recent, yeah.
I personally, normally I'm used to 3 years, but because this is this long, I thought 5 years was a good in-between, but I agree.
Yeah.
They may not be operational. They may be 90% or 80% through the thing, and you can still call up whoever their customer is and say, how
Yeah.
are they doing?
Maybe just say dates of operation if applicable.
Yeah,
Okay.
I agree with that.
So they could have started it, be in the process with their examples. And if they have a strong one, yeah, then they'll just include that. They'll be lenient, right, and include that in their 4th and 5th. I had a concern that, so we talk about stakeholders, and in one case, we're talking about like regulatory stakeholders, but see, my note here says, concern that the boaters, harbor users, moldy users, adjacent properties like the hotel, not adequately considered or described with respect to engagement. So I wondered if on page 14, in section, where in section 14? I feel like 14 might not have been the right page. Somewhere in there. Sorry, it's page 12, 4A. So we talk about, at the top of page 12, 4A, we say, the approach shall provide details of how the contractor proposes to the identification of coordination required with other external organizations. I wondered if we might change that identification or add to that. Discussion should also include types of stakeholders with whom it's key to engage and how feedback from those engagements is anticipated to be considered.
I'm still lost where you're at.
Yeah, sorry.
Right.
Go. So in the middle, the sub-bullet farther down, yep, identification, that last one. If we added to that sentence I just read,
So this was,
be more, calling out more specifically.
so this was intended to capture we don't have specifically like Coast Guard in there, and they may have to be coordinated with because it's in an operational waterway. So I was opening, it's kind of a way to test if they are going to identify ones we don't put in there.
This is for external agencies, really.
Yeah, this is external government organizations, not stakeholders in general.
Okay.
This is approvals and.
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess it doesn't come across strong anywhere in the technical approach of how you identify other stakeholders to engage and how you consider them.
I mean, that's a part of their public outreach plan, which would be a component of this RFP.
It doesn't speak strongly when I read it. It makes it sound more like you present it to the public at certain points, but not a strong, I don't know. It just didn't come across as pulling those people in a, I don't want to use the word meaningful way, but I guess targeted way. Did anyone else get that feeling, or? So the sentence again that I was considering was, discussion should also include types of stakeholders with whom it is key to engage and how feedback from those, maybe local stakeholders with whom it is key to engage, how feedback from those engagements is anticipated to be considered.
There's times I feel like that's our job.
Yeah,
Like we should go tell
yeah.
Lanakila there's going to be something going on, and I wish we could get more than 2 people here. But
Yeah, I kind of flip-flopped with that perspective as well.
I can't expect an outside contractor to know our city and the stakeholders as well as we do. So to me, that's at least a little bit of that is on us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree.
I do think we could expand under the paragraph 3B, the deliverables. They have to describe the processes applied. We can add to that list of organizations, the public and the future boat users or something like that. Because I agree that it's absent the public right now. We talk about public outreach, but this would be where I would tie it in to a deliverable.
Okay.
So
Which deliverable is that?
page 16, paragraph 3, B2.
The process is applied to
I don't
ensure
have the
feedback.
public in there, which is an
stakeholders,
oversight.
Yeah.
staff.
And maybe the boating
Oh.
community,
So 3B, add public.
public and boating community.
Yeah,
Boating.
yeah, because like,
Because I agree, it's touched on, but it's not precise.
Right. Definitely one of those things when you're in the midst of the details of this, it's just a quick oversight. But yeah, the intent was always there, but I think that's a good comment.
and on page 18, studies, do we want, oh, never mind, I see it. Okay. The last comment I had was just on that 100% design, it says no public review, that's fine. I think though, if there are changes to the requirements verification matrix, you would want to make that part public.
Well, any CDRO has to be approved by the government, the acceptance of the CDRO. Do you want it to come back to the Harbor Commission?
Well, I don't know how it's made public specifically, if for, all the other aspects that say they're public, I would think that,
I kind of felt like this is the very end thing, like you're doing the cleanup after your last public
yeah,
meeting. And then it's up to, just like anything else, once we pass it off to city council for their final approval or to staff for their final approval, we don't approve what they just incorporated from our.
so you're saying it becomes public at
becomes
the
a public
city,
document.
at the city council?
Yeah.
Because it says that the 100% design isn't public.
No public review.
No public
is
review.
required. But
Okay,
it's still a public, all these are public documents.
Okay.
It won't be a workshop, but.
Yeah.
got it. All right, that sounds good. I didn't have any more comments.
Because then they're gonna have to incorporate changes from 100%, so then you have to have 105.
Yeah.
We just keep going, we'd never stop, so.
Yeah.
So that was my intent between the 90 and 100. was
Yeah, I wasn't meaning
You're
to
just doing
review.
cleanup at that point.
Yeah, and we
Uh-huh.
would ensure that Commissioner Callahan would be dead by the time this is.
I would be dead by then.
That would be a problem.
I don't feel well either.
No, are there any other comments? Really great, good job. Really good premise.
Yeah, really, really good document. Can't wait to get it out and motivate
out
people
there.
to crush timelines.
Yeah, we have another comment from Commissioner Light.
No.
No.
I think it's great.
Oh, good. I think it's great.
I submitted pen and ink changes where I found errors. and-
Okay,
Yeah, we've got those.
okay. So there's no action on this, correct? I think,
No, we don't.
Gotta get public input.
I've got your discussion. Roger's gonna send me stuff. I've got Leslie's plus the notes I took. I got Roger's.
Okay.
Vicky, get it done. Tom, get it done.
all right, I want to open it up for public comment. Oh, who's this stranger? I don't recognize him at all.
Make him state his
Page
name.
one.
Oh, yeah, could you,
173.
tell us who you are.
Talk about people who will be dead before we build the boat ramp.
I'm older than you, Mark.
Mark Hansen, King Harbor boater, 63 years boating in our harbor, proud member of the amenities working group. And I've been actively advocating for a public boat launch ramp now for 24 years as we hit November. So yeah, this is a long time coming. I want to thank waterfront staff and Commissioner Light for all their hard work on the RFP. My biggest thing I was going to note, you guys just did a great job covering, which was public review and community outreach. So great. I don't have to say any of that. You guys just did a great job on it. Just a couple things administratively. I've been really optimistic and happy when the waterfront director has relayed to us that it sounds like DBA is up for paying for the lion's share of this thing. Over the last 24 years that I've been involved in, I haven't gone back and looked in the docs recently, but I remember back then, the standard was 50%. Matching grants. So, I mean, this is like super great news. What we seem to be hearing from them. I know another challenge had been that you had to show the value of the ramp, and they actually had a dollar amount. It was 3 people per launch and a dollar amount per launch of value, and you did that over 20 years, and you had to show that the cost the cost of the ramp to them, you'd make that in 20 years of value to the public. And I remember that being a challenge for 2-lane ramps. You get an economy of scale as you go to 4 and 6 and 8. So I'm crossing my fingers that they're so stoked on getting another ramp that they'll be maybe a little lenient on us on that value equation. Just a couple little mechanical things on the ramp to think about. One was during the amenities process, one of our long-time boaters, he's been in the harbor just about as long as I have, he commented that at another harbor he had operated out of, they had a long queuing dock at their boat ramping. Says it worked great. It got the traffic down instead of everybody milling around waiting for a turn. It got people on that dock, and then it also made it go faster because people were getting their boat all broken down and ready to pull out. I thought that was a really valuable comment. So maybe tuck that into our thinking. So do we want to make sure we have an actual queuing dock? Another one that's kind of an obvious thing to think about. I know we have a subcommittee looking at dry boat storage, and obviously the best place for it is immediately adjacent to a ramp. So that may come into our design considerations as we go down. And then interestingly, the hoist issue just popped up again the other day.
The what issue?
A hoist. Yeah. What you guys had approved had the hoist in it. When we went to city council, some of us were surprised when one of the city councilmen decided that he didn't like the idea of the hoist. And so that was like the only thing they changed from the whole amenities plan. And so anyway, the question's come back up to me. So I toss it back to you guys. You might want to have a discussion about that and decide if you want to recommend that the city council rethink. I won't get into all the logic, but you guys understood there's people who have have trouble using a boat ramp and would, particularly older people or people with, with handicapped people, and they really like that hoist idea. So anyway, you might, put it on the back burner to think about. Anyway, that's it. Otherwise, this is just fantastic to be taking this step forward. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Mark. Is there any other comment or e-comments out there?
There are no e-comments.
All right, hearing none, I close the public comments section and we move on to L2.
Well, I actually would like to make a motion out of it.
Can I ask one more question before you do? When the city council got rid of the hoist, was that purely on money or was it also on space?
It came out of nowhere, to be honest with you. All of a sudden, it just got legs at the end of the meeting, and they ended up approving it. They've already kind of started back-talking it a little bit, knowing that the amenities plan is conceptual. They asked, well, when we do the boat launch, is that something we can kind of, renegotiate when it's up at city council or at the Harbor Commission's purview? And I said, absolutely. You can choose to amend the amenities plan at that time to strike that language. Or you can just say, yeah, we considered removing it, but we see there's way more benefit to having, an alternative means, if you will, for anybody that's not capable of launching. So given that the amenities plan is conceptual in nature, there is wiggle room still, absolutely. But whoever the overarching authority is on this project will likely have to make that decision.
Yeah, so I had two questions. I don't know where the next nearest hoist is. I know of one in Gaviota, but I don't know if there's one closer than that. I don't know if you know, Mark?
Dana Point.
Okay.
That's far.
And there are hoists around that are,
Private.
private, commercial, you got to be in that marina or in that boatyard to use one.
Right.
Our boatyard has a hoist, but it's not exactly available to public. And then another thought I had is, hey, if DBA is signing checks, if it was just a matter of money keeping that hoist going, if DBA would, pay to keep the hoist going, maybe we could keep it going. So,
Yeah, we can certainly include in the request.
if we can find out what the objection is from the city council and then see if we can overcome it somehow.
Okay.
I like the hoist. I like seeing people get access to the water, so.
Yeah.
But it's such a small harbor.
The main problems with hoists are maintenance and personnel.
Yeah.
You can't let John Q. Public
Yeah.
touch the hoist.
Yeah, it's certainly not.
It was such a short discussion at council that just all of a sudden garnered all of their support. It happened quickly when we were doing the amenities plan. And as you guys know, you're sitting there for 6 hours or however, whatever it is, you're like, yeah, fine, So,
I can see how it would seem a luxury in such a small harbor.
right.
But I don't know.
Yeah. That's a nice idea, though, kind of seeing, because it probably is related to cost. I mean, most things are. And so if
Yeah. Cost and personnel.
that's right. So if you could look to see if it could get funded, that's a nice, nice thinking out of the box. Yes, Commissioner Light, you had another.
Sorry, you're going to make a motion.
I was going to make a motion, but I also have a comment that brings up another thing. We didn't put that they have to come up with operational costs. And I think that's an important thing to put in here.
Yeah. Let's put that in there.
That's a
Yeah.
really good
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, because the hoist certainly adds if you were to go that direction.
Well, even the boat ramp.
Even the boat ramps.
Yeah,
It's
we
gonna
want to
add-
understand
Yeah.
the construction cost, but then what's the ongoing
much
cost of the
ongoing
city?
Costs, yeah.
Yeah, for
That's right.
operations, which gets to do you have an office down there and stuff like that. So I would like to make a formal motion that we support, the RFP as presented with the changes discussed by the Harbor Commission, just to have that in the record.
Sure, okay,
And you're going to be going to the council with it, so you can certainly state that.
okay.
And then a second portion of that motion is to request from the council whether we can get the contractor to build in an option for maintaining the boat hoist. Rather than waiting till the contract's out, because that could be a constructive change, build it right into the RFP. Because that's a big cost delta. When you're doing your circulation study, circulating into the boat hoist and the boat ramp is different than eliminating the boat hoist.
So not putting that into the RFP for now, but making all the changes that you're talking about today, presenting it to council with this other option that's not in it, but requesting that they
Well, I
consider
think
it?
from what I'm hearing tonight, we'd recommend that you insert to the contractor that you want them to bid out what it would cost to do an option analysis of maintaining or removing, because I think there would be a constructive cost because it's two different circulation studies. And if you came to me after I bid it and
Right.
said, oh, throw in this boat hoist, I go, wait a minute, you changed the,
Right.
that's not in the amenities plan, that's not in any of your documents.
Well, I don't know. I think maybe it's just something we should put in. Not.
I think we should put it in, but I think you want to be overt, since the council said take it out.
Oh, gotcha.
You don't want to like slip it by them. You want to
Right.
make sure. So my recommendation is we put it in and advise the council that we recommended putting
Hey,
that in
highlight
as an
right here.
option that we can cross out later if it doesn't pan out cost-wise.
Okay.
So you're also thinking it's kind of they could have two solutions?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
I like that.
like, yeah, it might be easy.
And we
just-
could, right on day
or
one,
may
say,
not.
well, we could, but
Yeah.
probably wait till we get down and see how much it's going to cost. And then
Yeah.
Right.
I'd rather cost that out than do a constructive change later.
Is that the second part of your motion?
Yes.
I second it.
All right. We've got a motion and a second. Commissioner Light.
Comments?
Can I make a comment?
Yeah.
Could you call Craig Stanton and ask him how many times a week the hoist gets used? If the hoist was used 5 times all summer, maybe we don't even need a boat ramp. But if, it might be worth saying the hoist is getting used, 50 times on weekends.
Okay.
Do you think does that help strengthen the argument to keep the
Well,
hoist?
yes and no, because we don't have the option of
Using,
the boat launch.
right, there's no boat launch
There's
right
no,
now.
there's no option.
Fair, but if you found out that the hoist was only used 5 times all summer,
Oh, yeah, then you scratch it.
Yeah.
and maybe
but-
the ramp too.
But using it as, gee, it was used 50 times, we need it. Well, yeah, but there's no other option.
Right.
Look, the reason I think it's important is I think the public's going to bring it up when we get to design. I mean, we
I think
went
so,
through
too.
the Center Cal design review, and it wasn't, it wasn't the Center Cal design, but the previous boat ramp design review. And there was no boat hoist in it, and they added it because of the elderly and ADA type folks. So, I think we can always see the cost of it and decide that's not worth it.
I certainly think including this option now will allow them to provide that cost estimate, which then we can show Craig.
Yeah.
And then together, when it goes forward with ultimate design, we can tell Harbor Commission and City Council, like, this is the usage.
Yeah.
This is the cost of maintaining this thing long-term.
Keep it through
data
the
is good.
30%
Right.
design. Keep it through 30%, and if nobody from the public voices strong,
Right.
Yeah.
And you can go back to the public and say, look, every use cost us, 50 grand in
well,
maintenance.
we won't know that till the end of the.
Yeah,
Right.
so, fair enough.
makes sense.
Use your judgment.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. So we have a motion, we have a second. Commissioner Light,
Aye.
Commissioner Kazan,
Aye.
Commissioner Callahan,
Aye.
Commissioner Carlson,
Aye.
and Chair Bauer.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right. So L1 is done. We are now moving to the director's report.
All right, so I'm going to quickly go over this. I was able to get this into your agenda packets. So quick council meeting updates. August 15th, the 3 leases, those standalone building leases were approved. The one that we just saw today being one of them. I will want to make a minor announcement. At that meeting, we talked quite a bit about Captain Kids and putting in some kind of wiggle room language in terms of how this parking study comes out and whether or not we could use what's currently kind of a separate ingress egress private parking lot that's unique to Captain Kids. We were able to confide with the applicant, create that wiggle room in that language that said if the parking study needs more space, and it could very well turn out that we need that space, that Captain Kids would essentially give up that area, allow us to incorporate that parking lot into the greater parking lot, and essentially give us some wiggle room to kind of make some things happen.
Nice.
So we got that going for us.
Great.
Let's see. They also, on the 15th, created a resolution proclaiming Sunday, October 1st as 10K Swim for Mental Health Day. and that's the sponsorship and support of the South Bay Children's Health Center. Also on the 15th, the dredging project was awarded to a company called Manson Construction for $2.9 million, which is well under what we thought was going to be about $4.5 million. So fingers crossed it stays at 2.9. And then we re-upped with one of our law firms up at Pier Plaza for a new 1-year lease. That's going. And then let's see, at our next council meeting, actually not the next one, on the 19th, we're developing a contract with Civitas. And Civitas is going to be tasked with performing a study on the potential creation of a business improvement district along International Boardwalk. We've received interest from the tenants of International Boardwalk that they would be interested in doing something like this. They're looking at Riviera Village as a good example. It's essentially where they tax themselves, and that tax money goes to very specific projects to beautify, what have you, advertisements, whatever they want to do to kind of garner up business, make the area better. What they don't know is how much do they have to tax themselves to get what they want? What is it? How do you create this kind of thing? How's it administered? They got to create a president, somebody that oversees this. What does that mean? Who do they report to? Devil's in the details, right? So this company is going to really get in there, explain to the residents, tenants of International Boardwalk what it's going to take to do this, what they hope to get out of it, and kind of give them an ultimatum of like, this is what's going to.
Where do you draw the line for who's in it?
Right now, it's just International Boardwalk because those are the only ones that have.
Is that R10, what was?
That would be Fun Factory if it eventually became something. Quality Seafood, all the way down to Nausea, Paddleboard, stopping at Paddleboard.
Not the R10.
Not the R10. But the study.
Not Pier Plaza.
Not Pier Plaza. So the study might say.
Not Kincaid's.
Not Kincaid's.
Okay.
The study might say you've only got 13 tenants. It's not cost effective unless you want to bill yourselves $5,000 a month. And they may decide, hey, maybe we need to expand this a little bit. And they start to try to garner additional support. What is that? How does that affect our existing associations? Right? There's a ripple effect here. So ultimately, this is an information gathering stage. It's a let's teach the International Boardwalk tenants what is possible, what's in reality. See if they still have interest in it after all this, and we'll take next steps if the city council dictates we should. So we plan to get into contract with Civitas on the 19th, and then this study will occur over the next several months. Some upcoming events. We've got September movie nights each Thursday at 7 o'clock. That's sponsored by the Pier Association. And then we also have the 18th annual Rods, Rides, and Relics show, car show on October 1st from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Some project updates, the Harbor Patrol dock replacement project. I told you we were really close. We're still really close. We're about 98% there. They got a punch list item about 2 weeks ago. I mean, inspections are every other day. I mean, this thing is wrapping up rapidly. If you go out there, it looks done, to be honest with you. And then we do have some updates on the new tenants at the landing. That's that area just before you get onto the pier there.
The old Barney's Beanery one.
Yeah, there's some signage up there for CalMex Cantina. They're really close. To be honest, when we got this update, they expected to be open as of September 25th. So we're only a couple weeks away there. And then Mermaid Tavern has indicated they hope to have an ABC licensing approval in the next couple of weeks.
What does that mean?
ABC is the.
Where's Mermaid Taverns?
That's also in the landing. That's
the downstairs stuff?
Exactly. That's like the nightclub.
Yeah.
That's the CalMex is essentially an El Torito, a fancier El Torito. It's the same company. And then the downstairs area is the nightclub area.
Oh.
Yeah, if you didn't know. Okay, topics for our next meeting in October. So we're scheduled for October 9th. We have a few items on that agenda. Number one is the signage that Roger brought up. We're going to be going over text amendment to allow electronic signage throughout the harbor. That's freestanding signs, directory signs, anything you can think of. The way we're essentially proposing it, we don't have to get into it today, but is that it's on a case-by-case basis to be reviewed by this commission as a design review that the planning department, someone like Antonio, would come and present to you. We do plan on bringing that over. We also have potentially another CUP coming our way, Savoir Faire, the childcare center that's already out there. They occupy 95% of one entire Pier Plaza office building out there. There's a corner suite that they now plan on taking over, so that they'll have the whole building itself. Because they're expanding, they've got to amend their CUP. So we hope to have them. And then finally, our fire chief, Pat Butler, will come by. There was an item at the last city council meeting on September 5th. It was a side letter amending the memorandum of understanding between the Redondo Beach Firefighters Association and the city of Redondo Beach. And essentially it was renaming a couple of the job classifications. It ended up getting pulled because we got some citizen letters, and to clarify and to, bring Harbor Commission into the fold, Pat Butler is going to be making a presentation just to kind of explain the intent of the changes, what he hopes to accomplish, and to receive any comments from you guys as a whole. So that'll happen in October as well. Also, our new harbor commissioner will be starting. I got the chance to sit down with him, have some coffee with him. He'll be replacing Stephen Walters. His name is Ryan Abelman. He's also a city attorney, just like Stephen Walters was. That's the kind of the caveat of taking that chair, is you have to be some sort of an attorney. I think he's going to fit in well. Obviously he could use all of your help in terms of getting some, knowledge and some institutional knowledge in there. I guarantee, or I encourage you guys to exchange phone numbers, have conversations with him, do some meet and greets. He's a nice guy. I think he'll do well. So with that said, show of hands, or if you're not going to be here, I want to make sure we have a quorum. That's a pretty full agenda. Anybody afraid that they won't be in attendance?
I will not be here.
Okay, so that's one down.
I'll be here.
You will. Leslie?
Should be here, yeah.
Tom?
I should be here.
Okay,
I'm planning on it.
okay. And Matt anticipates being there, even though he was out today. And then we'll have, obviously Ryan will be here for his first meeting, I hope. So it sounds like we'll have a quorum. Roger, don't feel too bad. That concludes my director's report.
Fantastic. Any comments on that? Yes.
So first off, thanks for getting that out in writing ahead of time. I think that's a first, so.
Yes.
Golf
Gotta make it a
clap.
thing. We're gonna try to make it a thing,
Golf
yeah.
clap.
Yes, nice.
Any update on the Seabass Grow Out facility?
Yeah, we're still working on a contract, to be honest with you. We're hoping to kind of hand that off to our future new employee. We have final interviews scheduled for this week. We're down to 3 people, and I hope to get them on board hopefully by the end of October. And then that contract will be one of their first kind of areas of accomplishments.
Last time we spoke on the different uses throughout the harbor and maybe bundling those, and you were going to be working with Cosmon. Any update on that?
No real updates just yet. I mean, we're still working with Cosmont. It's still kind of a closed session item. So we're still developing a strategy. Nothing that we can report out at this point.
Okay. And then I did want to comment, I was pretty upset at the Harbor Patrol item that went to the city council. We just had a public safety briefing, our last meeting before that council meeting. This didn't come up. And it just seemed like they're trying to slide something, below the radar.
Right.
And I would hope at some point we come back and really revisit what this commission has stated several times is a separate Harbor Patrol Department independent of the fire group and having their own harbor master and, all of that organizational stuff that we talked about, but I don't know if it ever.
Well, it is a strategic plan item.
So I tried to download the most recent strategic plan, the one that's up there. It's not in, but that's from September of October of last year. So I couldn't find the current.
Yeah, the current. I'll get you a copy of the current one. It's on there.
Okay.
It's most certainly
Is that coming
on there.
to us?
Coming to you.
That's not next week?
No.
So what's the
It's far
process
off.
there? You guys are you're gonna come up with a recommendation, you're gonna get with staff and come up with a recommendation and present it to us, or Are we just taking shots in the wind, or?
We're going to be surveying what other waterfront departments do. We're going to be presenting those ideas to this group, coming up with a philosophy that's agreed upon by this group, and presenting something to city council. Timing wise, the strategic plan says this year, this next fiscal year, starting in June. So I technically, as staff, have until June of 2024 to get this to you. I can tell you right now, I haven't started it. But that's not to say it's not on my radar, and I take the strategic plan very seriously. It's my marching orders from city council of what they want done in the next year. And that's essentially how I direct my staff to accomplish things. So we'll get to you.
I'm very concerned about that. I don't want to unwed the two, but I also don't want to wait too long to get going on the harbor patrol, because we need a beefed up harbor patrol by the time this boat ramp gets completed. And you don't just turn a switch and all of a sudden you got a full up harbor patrol again. It's going to take recruiting. It's going to take training. So that's a several year process. And the longer we delay it, the longer it's going to be till we restore that to what it was before and when we didn't even have a boat ramp. So I'm very concerned as we add this boat ramp that we're adding a lot more. We're already seeing it. I sit down at the yacht club and you can just see boats going by at 10 knots through the main channel and down the fairways, which is a very dangerous situation. And some of it's, sailboaters who are going out racing who are late, but it's a no wake zone and it's hazardous. We see kids jumping off the rocks, right into the harbor, and that's a dangerous thing. We've seen them. We saw it when we were walking down the sea bass facility. They climb that tripod at the hand launch and jump off into 2 feet of water.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of stuff where if the harbor patrol's out patrolling instead of responding to landside calls or waiting for somebody to call, you get ahead of instead of waiting for the bad thing to happen.
Right.
And I'm very concerned about that, and we're going to increase it as we go into this boat ramp, and no reason we should. And hopefully with the amenities plan, we're going to increase, just regular people coming down there, not just boat ramp.
That's the hope, right? Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense to me to continue to erode and rename them names that are lesser, It seems like they're downgrading the positions even further than they are today. And I've provided examples of other harbors and, like down in Orange County, they were actually part of Homeland Defense for Orange County. They have to be public law enforcement people, but they're in a separate department. They have a 12-person dive team. I mean, and then if you go up to Channel Islands Harbor, it's under county, they have their own harbor director who the Harbor Patrol reports to, and they've got the fire and police are on an MOA. If they need to respond, Harbor Patrol calls them up. And we seem intent on just continuing to compress it down, make them part of the fire department, and it'll go away. And it is going away. We're not getting the responsiveness that we used to. So if you can't tell, I'm very passionate about that. And I think the longer we wait, the more at risk we are when we do start beefing up the traffic in our harbor.
Sure.
Which may start as soon as Alan gets going on his 2 facilities there.
Hopefully, right?
Yeah, hopefully, yes.
Yeah.
That's
So anyway, off my soapbox, sorry.
Okay. Any other comments on the director's report? All right, we now do to referrals to staff.
Nothing from me.
Roger?
Sure, I'll do a couple. I'm never quite sure if these fit in here or in referrals to staff, but for those of you still listening out there who are interested in lobster season this year, there was a rule change. In the past, lobster season opened at midnight, and that was a problem for public safety. They moved it to 6 a.m. on Saturday. This year, they're moving it back to 6 p.m. on the Friday before. So lobster season is going to open 6 p.m. Friday night on September 29th. So if anyone's going out, that's when you start this year. And then things going on in other harbors. I subscribe to the City of Long Beach's monthly harbor emails, and I'll insert how nice it is seeing harbor-focused leadership in Long Beach sending out monthly emails. I went to a hazardous roundup for flares on Saturday, which in this harbor for many years has been done just by volunteers. if we had leadership and a harbor master, this could be done more formally. When I went to it, they took my old flares away and they gave me an LED flare, which is worth $100. And they also gave me a safety packet of all kinds of boating safety information and a bunch of oil absorbing pads. If every new boater that came into our harbor had one of those, maybe we wouldn't have an oil slick in every basin. They gave me a flat diaper, an oil-filled diaper that goes around the fill spigot when you're getting gas, and then also a big sausage that goes in your bilge. A nice little pack.
Done by the Coast Guard Auxiliary.
Yeah, so it was a Coast Guard auxiliary thing, but someone's got to call them in and arrange it.
Well, they're kind of based at King Harbor Yacht Club.
I'm saying if we had a harbor master and someone who,
Sure.
harbor leadership who could do this every year and hand one to a new boater when they're walking the docks. And then upcoming in Long Beach, they're doing another hazardous waste roundup. And then they're also doing a bulky item roundup. So they're telling people to clean off your docks and bring us your items and we'll come around and pick them up with a dumpster. So, just an example of active management in other harbors. And then some worse news. In Long Beach at the gas dock, they had a fire which unfortunately killed a couple people. They had a very serious problem at the gas dock. I don't know the cause of it, but it's you wonder if we'd be ready for that at our gas dock. I don't think we would be. And then up in Oakland, there's a new crime wave spreading where people have discovered that boats are soft targets. It's no secret that people leave stuff on boats. People think that gate barrier locks them up. Well, there's a lot of marinas up in Oakland and there's a lot of little waterways and there's a lot of access to boats. People have discovered you can just, go through any boat you want in the middle of the night and take what you want. I'm afraid that's going to spread to other harbors. I hate to see it come here. And, again, it's something with only, 2 harbor patrol officers on duty. We won't be ready for it. I think a lot of other harbors are in the same boat. That's the last of my stuff. Thanks. So no real reference to you, just information on what's going on in other harbors.
I appreciate it, yeah.
Things I wish we were better prepared for and things I would talk about next month with the harbor management.
I'll relay some of the PD-related stuff to Sergeant Weiss and Joe Hoffman.
The last thing I guess I would say is, Jim, you say that you're worried about, somebody trying to slip something by us. I don't think this is, everybody's busy. I don't think this is necessarily, somebody trying to slip something past us. I think it's more a matter of neglect, which is almost worse. They're just not thinking of us. And if we had harbor-focused leadership, they'd be here thinking of us because it would be their bailiwick. So anyway, thanks. That's it. Off my soapbox.
Yeah, my point was I hate having to go through consent calendar items to get surprised by stuff that you would expect would come through.
Certainly, yeah.
It would come to the commission.
I'm not going to say, I guess I did say it was malfeasance, but maybe it's not, but it's not the right way to find this stuff.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah, thank you.
No.
Yeah. Commissioner Kazan?
Sure, just to reiterate, I guess a referral to recreation of it's Public Works about bike racks.
Yeah, I mean.
So all the way from, maybe from Redondo, I don't recall, but certainly from Yacht Club away, all the way down to
Pacific.
the International Boardwalk. There are only a few bike racks and those are only at private, establishments.
Right.
So we have parks, we have, the boardwalk that, people can walk. A lot of reasons that people come down where they're not going to eat at a restaurant and there's nowhere to park their bike. And so I got to imagine there's some banged up bike racks that could even temporarily place at,
Get some cheap ones.
entrances or the park or whatever until we have something more permanent.
It shouldn't be that big a deal, really. I mean,
Yeah.
but so
It's pretty inexpensive
a second herd. Yeah, absolutely.
in
And
the grand scheme of things. I mean,
and it sends a big message.
Yeah, I don't know how much of a problem it was when we were doing the harbor, the boat docks, and they had all those parking spaces blocked off, and people that came down. I know there's one rack in there that was completely full.
Right.
People that come down to fish and stuff. So
Okay.
Commissioner Light?
I think we spoke to both of them. I was going to bring up the referral on the bike racks since you had brought that up earlier. And then we did have the one that we made a motion on the, looking at the 2 nonprofit slips.
Yeah.
And Portofino, so.
We'll get that
Those
back.
are the 2 I picked up during our discussions today. I think we covered everything else.
I don't have anything, so that's great. All right, now the last is we just need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I got one. Anybody want a second? James, second. And, with that, all in favor?
Aye.
And all opposed? And hearing none, we adjourn this meeting. Thank you.